Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to this. I don't know what is this. What is this therapist session, where with two of us randomly comes up on Sundays and start chatting about something. I mean, most of the time comics, but you never know. Whatever comes up
Yep.
in our heads. It's been a
Yep.
while. Since my birthday, I kind of like had a I don't know, my kid gets sick and stuff like that, and you get routinely involved in some bullshit around that kind of stuff, and you're like, okay, do I recover or do I just get on with stuff?
Yeah.
And the
Right.
comic books becomes like the last thing. But I got a couple of books for
Did you
myself.
get something for your birthday?
Yeah, that's what I intended to basically do, at least on
Let's
my
see.
birthday. And I will talk about those mainly anyway.
Hmm.
So I guess while we talk about whatever we read, so I can show them off as well.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
I don't know if you see the picture I shared one of our books,
I didn't
which
look
was,
actually. Yeah.
it was been a long time on the books, and it's as trippy as I was expecting to be. And anyway, we'll talk about it later. But yeah, so did you watch anything to share with people?
We uh
Interesting.
we finished the second season of What If this week.
Oh,
We
this.
watched all the
Uh-huh,
episodes there.
uh-huh.
And there were some good episodes. The Doctor Strange from the first season makes an appearance in this one, so that was kind of
Wow.
exciting.
Okay.
There was a couple of actually pretty damn good episodes. Like the first season, there were some good episodes. I mean, I really liked the first season of What If I'm being honest. And it's
Hmm.
because it was really focused around Doctor Strange and stuff. And I thought that story was entertaining. I thoroughly enjoyed it. This one
Hmm.
has a few more episodes that aren't kind of up to snuff, but there was enough there that we enjoyed for sure. I mean, there was a couple of characters that they introduced that I don't know who the hell they are. I don't know if they're old characters. I don't know if they're updated new characters with a new kind of origin story. So I was a bit confused a couple of times, but whatever. Not enough to like make me turn it off.
Hmm.
The animation style is pretty good. It's kind of
Very
that
cool.
standard fare of animation, but yeah, I mean, we kind of dug it, honestly. Oh, and Maya Deren again from Reservation Dogs does one of the voices in the What If as well too. So I'm really happy to see
Hmm.
actors from that world
Hmm.
getting drawn in and getting bigger paychecks. Like that's kind of awesome to me. I think that's pretty great.
So since we spoke about the Echo, I kind of did never even finished watching the
No,
series.
me neither.
Don't think even the Kingpin actor has like drawn me into intrigue. I really kind of sad because I kind of like to see that they actually properly employed actress who is deaf, and she's sign languaging fully to a blown proportion as to communicate like we do communicate in voice. And that's I really really enjoy it, and I should be like this. Like my husband's beef is all the time because he's South African, and every single like Black Panther. So he's like, oh, why don't they employ African actors? So there's plenty of them around, and they're really
Right.
good. And why do you need to employ Americans who speaking some weird African accent and it's not really where you're supposed to from? So
Ah,
finds that very unappealing, and he always recognizes because of South Africa in general. He has like what 15 languages just in one country. So
mhm,
so he kind of like he's used to all the languages, kind of stuff like that, especially with tint of he knows where they from, kind of thing, when the minute they speak. And it's like, and I keep on saying,
right.
oh, that sounds kind of to my non-knowing ear, it sounds so kind of offending. It's like, nah, American. So we have this almost kind of a game in a way, but it's like, so I say, oh, this one is definitely no. He's like, nope, no, it's not. And then you find out there's couples of Africans who were in Black Panther movie, I think, if I remember correctly. But that's kind of interesting how that kind of thing. It's kind of if you have people you having a oh hello Miss O.
Hello, Miss So.
And then so you have those kind of scenes. Oh, give me one moment. Let me finish my
Yeah, yeah.
my thing. And you should definitely employ like the same with Echo. I find I absolutely I watched a couple of interviews with her, the actress they employ for Echo, and she's just like proper like excited about the opportunity, and I'm absolutely floored. And I think I've seen some of reactions of deaf people who watch the series, and they're saying maybe, you know, like for them it's just because of the sign language in the movies,
Hmm.
or in the grand scheme of company as this big to put in the main screens for you to see. It's just a pity
Hmm.
that they don't like make them flourish at from trying get go, you know what I mean? Because
Right.
they I don't know, for some reason they have to take Echo out in the Bloom, because they have some sort of secret ways of dealing with the timeline, but we don't know about it. We just watch it and we make up an opinion, and most of the time they flop because nobody gives any rat's ass about it, doesn't it?
Hmm.
And now to to Miss So's question. My sister, it's a difficult way to explain how she feels. It's very difficult mentally. The only good thing we heard from the doctors is that some of the medications start working, which meaning that the tumor has been divided instead of being such a giant tumor in her body. It's had split up in many of them, which is apparently a good sign from the doctors.
That is.
And but the only thing is she's getting extreme allergic reactions to all the kind of things the cocktails they give implementing in her body. And I don't see all the whole picture, which is kind of helping, I guess, and I'm kind of like diluted, or like kind of, you know, have
Right.
this veil on me, which I don't realize exact the whole point of whatever she's going through. But I speak to my mom daily to understand exactly what's happening with her, and most of the time it's more emotional than, I mean, physical and emotional thing. Especially her mental state is not great, but she's trying. I mean, I guess she has to get on with the stuff, but she's kind of now afraid of chemos as well, because the way she's been feeling lately, and she's kind of despondent because lots of people around her got her hospital she goes to has told or meet people around her. She went to this place in my country where there's like a spa resort kind of town where it has all health benefits, you know, just like like waters. We have natural spring waters, which is really helpful, and stuff like just to ease your mind. And by weird chance, she met a person who's with chemo and the same kind of chemo she would cancer with what she has, and she has like 2 weeks left to live. So it's kind of it's a hard harsh thing for her because people recognize her now, you know, like you're wearing the same scarf because you're bald, you know, you're not having anything, you know, like, you know, people recognizes each other now who is going through this kind of thing. And it's kind of hard to be positive sometimes because I hear only negative and from my family part, and I'm not there with them, so it's not about me, it's
Yeah.
all
Right.
about her. But it's just I'm trying to explain to you what can I see and or hear most of the time what's happening with her. When I speak to her, she's like a roller coaster. So from one sentence I get positive negative negative, like it's kind of difficult to understand. But for me, I'm trying to be as plain as possible, let her emotions go naturally rather than me encouraging or inflaming something she doesn't want to talk about.
Hmm.
So yeah, so that's how my sister is. I'm
And I
finger
think that's the
crossing.
big part, right? Like that distance makes it tough. You try to be as supportive as you can from a
Yeah,
distance, but there's only so much you're
yeah,
seeing. There's only so much they're telling you. Yeah, it's a much. But I mean, that is good news that it's breaking down. I think, from
yeah.
what I understand, I am not a doctor. I play one on YouTube, but you know, breaking down, that's good because then they can attack those small chunks, right? You know, so that
Yeah,
does
it
seem like
seems
a
to be.
positive sign.
But yeah, the
Yeah.
only thing is it's just, you know, you're just hearing things. It's the
Yep.
from her side, as far as my mom's from her side, she is extreme negative. Like there's no positiveness. She's not seeing anymore. She's done too much research, and my sister's a really research driven. So no, whatever
Mhm.
what she's going through now, she will Googleize everything, which is not
Of
great.
course.
But that's what you do because, you know. And then also to make it even worse to the point, she lost her job or the company's going kaboom. So now it's
Oh,
another thing on top of her head. So it's
yeah.
another thing she has to think of, and she doesn't have energy whatsoever.
Yeah.
You know, like my mom, the way my mom describes my sister, it sounds horrifying, to be honest. So, but as I say, I'm trying to put like I understand I need to also take care of my own mental state, and I'm
Mhm.
doing trying my best. But I have this kind of like I don't know, maybe since I became I had depression, I have this veil I put on kind of easily, and it seems
Yeah.
to be my brain doesn't connect with some sort of emotions. Not saying that I'm running away from it, but just it just goes somewhere. And then when I get to talk to my mom, I realize I am, and then suddenly I hang up and I try to be a mother and do my own shit, like around myself, or try
Yeah.
at least to be that person because. You have us about to be 6-year old who's running
Yeah.
around like a and asking lots of questions. It's really good distraction, to be honest. So
Mhm. Yeah, it
yeah,
gives you
that's
something different to focus on, right? Like helps you make that shift as hard as it probably still is to make that shift. At least
uh,
there's a little bit of like a encouragement. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So and all other things, like your daily stuff. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm a big advocate of sound, you know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
sound and noises and music and stuff like frequencies, all of that
Yeah.
shit has
Oh,
played a big
apparently,
part of my life, like from meditation to all sorts of things, right? Like,
uh,
yeah, man.
my sister apparently she's extremely sensitive to any noise, high pitch or anything. She can't hear music. She told me that straight away. I said to her something about music as well, and she is saying I can't stand it. I just cannot listen to the. I think the level of the pitch where music comes from for her is too
Hurts.
annoys her.
Yeah,
Because
right.
the lack of sleep, the lack of just daily ingested, and then like nothing left in the body at the moment. So
Yeah.
she's saying to me that no, I can't even deal with that. Even though before she was prominent about music and all that stuff, like daily life was like music everywhere for her. But
Mhm.
things happen and changes. So I
Yeah,
just say
absolutely. Yeah.
it's different things for everybody. So I just hope that she's
Yeah,
doing it.
there's also like delta waves and all sorts of things. Like there's these
Mm,
lower frequency they're not shrill whatsoever. There's pretty much no high frequencies. It's
mm-hmm,
all kind of it's all kind of at a frequency that's supposed to kind of be in
mm-hmm,
tune with like your heartbeat and your blood flow in your body. So like and then
yeah.
some that help you sleep and help you kind of focus like green noise, I think, and like pink noise and like there's these kind of tones and sounds that are very
Uh-huh.
streamlined that are yeah absolutely worth looking into. Yeah.
Yeah. My sister's very difficult to give an advice to. She always
Yeah.
has been from the beginning. So,
Yeah.
but it's funny if I would be like when I was several times I've spoken to her over the phone. If I had been as plain or kind of forward, she would responded better to me than if I would be like, like trying to be helpful. So it's kind of interesting. I found the way to talk to her. It's like nothing too like nothing too helpful like in my voice,
Yeah.
just be
Yeah.
almost robotic type of a conversation what's like a plain volume, and she
Yeah.
respond to that in a calm manner. Whereas if I would bring up something, I try to be a bit more positive, I just can sense that she's about to spat out something loud, and I was like, okay,
Yeah.
maybe I just stop. It just
Yeah.
she
Right.
doesn't respond into. She's kind of like angry because nobody understands her. That's the only thing she she feels like left behind to
Hmm.
fend for herself, because in my country the government's idea of how to help cancer patients is quite dire, to be honest, even though we have national health thing going
Okay.
on in there. But
Hmm.
they kind of let you fend for yourself, to be honest, in some ways. Depends on the stages of cancer you have. So you have to kind of fight for yourself at the same time. So it's very difficult to, like, I hope she finds some ways to be positive. And she has a very young child next to her who completely has to distract her. And she's an extremely loud personality as well, my niece. And she's 4, about to be like 5 years. She's going to be 5 years this year. So that kind of thing helps as well. So we kind of have that common thing to talk
Hmm.
about. So that really helps too. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I have to really talk to her and
Yeah.
find the
Which
ways.
makes
Find the
sense. I
ways.
mean, that's pretty heavy thing to live with. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I can't imagine it. So yeah.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, we just as I say, we found a kind of thing, and I'm trying to support in that. So I always talk about stuff like
Absolutely.
that. So it helps, really helps her. I hope, at least.
Hmm.
Anyway, thank you. Oh, that's very kind of you to say. Well, try my best.
Yeah.
You know, I honestly sometimes feel like I'm not doing much because I am so far away in the distance. But you know, being there doesn't help either. I know her. I know that she likes her own space, and I know
Hmm.
being just hovering around her would really, really aggravate
Drive her
it.
nuts.
Yeah, so I
Yeah,
know
yeah.
maybe it's actually quite helpful not to be as far. But when the minute she asks me something, I always try to be there and helpful, and that seems to be she responding in that way positively. And then she hears like, you know, like all that stuff, like, and then my mom afterwards kind of recaps everything, you know. Oh, thank you very much for, like, kind of, she's like thanking you for talking to her or giving her help or support and stuff like that. So I don't really hear from her, I hear from my
Hmm.
mom's. But thankfully my parents are there for her, to be honest. And for my parents to live through this kind of stuff, especially in 70s, is not easy, because my sister is like, gave a report that, you know, she's not going to live the same years as you are, because, you know, like all that's kind of negativity they have to absorb like sponges, and then
Hmm.
basically leave her behind and go back home and just be normal for 5 minutes and go back again helping her. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a tough situation they are in at
Yeah.
the moment.
Fucking rights. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm. Anyway, on that horrible note,
See you next week, everybody.
yes,
I'm
thank you very much.
gonna go
It was
cry
lovely
now for like
talking
a
to
couple of
you.
days.
I am completely like talking about watching stuff still. I completely immersed myself in more of that, like British television, like when it comes to detective shows or like those
Hmm.
psychological crime shows, which are really good. One of them I kind of really got immersed myself into. It's called Trigger Point. So two
Okay.
seasons came out recently, and it's about uh, a bomb squad, or people who basically specialize in neutralizing bombs. I don't know, like those kind of
Hmm.
things. And they basically going after some people, and the lady who is in front of the basically the main character, she gets all she goes her people she loses a lot of people because of that kind of job choices she has, because
Yeah. Yeah.
she gets into the point where her brother gets blown away to pieces because in the wrong place in the wrong time. Then she loses somebody who she loves. It's just so suspenseful, but they manage to keep your attention so rapidly in just 4 minutes. You like next, and you can binge watch. Honestly,
Yeah.
I kid you not, you can binge watch so quickly, and you're like, I want to know exactly what's happening right at the end. And they really keep
Right.
that momentum going so nicely. So if you want to get your mind to escape from anything you are surrounding you, definitely recommend watching Trigger Point. It's
Hmm.
extremely a beautiful TV show they created by whatever that English televisions. I don't remember who made it up, but they
Right.
really always goes out. And there's another one with Peter Capaldi, who's Doctor Who. Or
Oh yeah.
so there's another series, and it's I forgot the name now, but it's him as a detective, and he's an asshole. But and Peter Capaldi can do bad guy so well. You kind of like, oh my god, I'm gonna punch his face the way he talks to everybody. And
Yeah. Yeah.
he has this female protagonist, like, who basically annoys him the hell out of him, and she's like a green girl kind of thing at work, and asking too many questions, and he's supposed to be dirty, but we don't really show if he's dirty or he's good. And he has this history surrounding that, and it's just only started. And but he is an actor you want to watch basically doing his job,
Hmm.
because as a bad guy you kind of like really afraid, because he's so, you know, like he can, oh my god, he's gonna kill her, how he's gonna do this, he has too many friends around, he's in high places, he works for somebody, and he's a chauffeur as well, part-time. And there's all this mystery surrounding that story, and you're like, what the hell is going on? Who is the bad guy, who's the good guy?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it's only just a couple of episodes, I think, out at the moment. But yeah, it's Peter Capaldi is a detective. It's really good. Absolutely recommending them. I like him as an actor anyway. The Thick of It is my husband's favorite show of his.
Hmm.
So he was there, and he
Oh,
absolutely loved. Yeah, he
yeah.
was there. It's like political drama TV show he
Yeah,
was
yeah,
in.
it's that comedian guy. Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about now.
Yeah.
Well,
There's
I can see his name in my head, but yeah, yeah,
old Scottish guy, curly hair, like a quite long nose. Used to be a Doctor
yeah,
Who in England. If I mentioned for people Doctor Who, you definitely already know who I'm talking about. But for
yeah.
you out there, the thick of it is the main. Oh yes, and talking about that one. Oh, I
I
absolutely love
watched
it.
the I watched the
Jodie.
first two seasons recently when I was sick. I binged the first two
Yeah,
seasons of True
yeah,
Detective,
yeah.
which was difficult because I hate Woody Harrelson and I
Uh,
hate Matthew McConaughey. Like I hate both of those actors. I think they drive me fucking mental. But I'd heard so many good things about the show that I had to watch it. And honestly, I did really enjoy the first season. Like Miss So was talking about asshole
mhm,
detectives. I love dark and
mhm,
not good people being the main, like complex
mhm,
people, or I'm blanking on the proper words here, but like I really think those kind of shows are amazing. Having flawed characters as kind of your main actors that you're
mhm,
following through life, I think is phenomenal. And the thing that
mhm,
one of the things I would say about that show is there's still this, it's almost impossible to do fully to explore these dark, less than perfect characters, because at the end of the day, they're still movie stars. So they're still like handsome,
mhm,
and there's still like a cool factor where you can identify. Like my whole thing is like, I want to see someone do those same characters, but with
mhm,
like these old actors who are like overweight, they've got like acne scars, they're not like the stereotypical handsome. And then let's see how many people actually like the show and
mhm.
actually identify with the character, because I think there's a big part of that psychology at play. But there was
Didn't
so many good moments between the two of them, and I loved
mhm,
that they didn't like each other through the whole show, even though they become friends. But they're like don't really like each other. They're kind of trapped in this relationship. All that stuff was really enjoyable. And the second season, same thing, had some really good moments. Overall, not that good, but there were
mhm.
some amazing performances in that second season. I was kind of amazed at the actors they had, and some of these, that main character who you're following him through. It's like you start off the show and it's like, this guy's a piece of shit, and then you learn something else and you're like, oh, maybe he's still a piece of shit, and then you learn something else. Well, actually, maybe. And then by the end of the show, you're like, this is a fucking good dude, man. This guy's an awesome guy, like that's good writing, to take you through that arc.
The newest season of True Detective is Jodie Foster is the
Jodie
main,
Foster. Yeah.
and it's is it in Antarctica, I think it's based in, and it's like South Pole. I don't know where. It's like a snow everywhere. Look like an Antarctica town,
Okay.
and there's thing happen in the science lab, and things get out of hand. It's kind of like at the beginning you feel like just murder happening and some really weird stuff, but then paranormal, like dead people seeing, and it's really good because like a local community who's living in there, and it's I forgot the name of the town now. It's kind of weird name, but it's really good. I think one of the best seasons so far for me. I like number one with Matthew and Woody. I don't mind
Mhm,
them as an actors. I found Matthew more annoying than Woody. I think Matthew
mhm.
is generally you can really hate him quite quickly because of the personalities he usually acts on. But when he has quite a serious role,
Stupid
I really
voice.
enjoy. Well, that's an accent he has, unfortunately, but like
Yeah.
he lives with that one. But I think from True Detectives, I think this last one with Jodie, it's absolutely phenomenal for me because it has like
Awesome.
suspensive moments, and your like paranormal, a bit of a ghost kind of things. It's in snow where dark always sets in. There's no daylight whatsoever, and you have
I'm
this
sold
mystery
already.
surrounding everything, where people like disappear, and you find them like there's dead bodies called up in the snow, and they all not wearing anything. It's not a spoiler. It's just what you will basically eventually
Yeah.
find out. And it's not finished yet, and I cannot always wait to watch it. So I think it's always a good point. And so far, Jodie kicks ass when she's like a badass kind of chick. She has this. She sleeps with her boss, and she thinks nobody knows, but everybody knows in that little town.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
she's like really bitter. She lost her son, I think. So her personality is kind of like you never know where she stands at. She like tries to be too much of a badass, and everybody hates her, and everybody's like, all the females apparently hates her because she's like going through the walls of people and blah blah blah. It doesn't matter who surrounds her. And then she has this uh, uh, help, like assistant who was sacked at first, but then he gets involved because of this one case, because they found a tongue of a person, and they don't understand
Mhm.
why the tongue would appear there. And it just has like lots of surrounding mystery, which is absolutely lovely. And also, talking about
She's so great.
detectives, I keep on mentioning to you, I think I mentioned it before, but if you want that detective guy who's main in charge, who's bitter and drinking and swears and all, Gary Oldman is in Slow Horses. You have to watch that
Oh yes.
performance. You have to see him. He is
Yeah.
a filthy old asshole sitting in his office, bitter as swears, farts,
Mhm.
whatever you can hear or whatever it's makes you crawl when you see it is fantastic. He's one of the best roles I think he had in a while, and it's
He's a
detective
hell of an
show.
actor, man.
Yeah, exactly. And in that one, he's like, honestly, it's also reaching levels of acting where you want him all the time to be part of, and you're just like, it's fast paced as well. It's like a kind of like agency behind M27, like a below everything. They are like a push around when something like they don't want to deal with, they shoot that thing to that area or to those people, and they basically have to deal with. But of course there's something else they can do, and they get themselves involved with something where nobody wants to be surrounded by, and blah blah blah. It's just really good. So Slow
Mhm.
Horses, go watch it, at least
Yeah, yeah,
first
yeah.
season. But the third season is actually where everything kind of like even picks up even more, but I really enjoyed
Mhm.
it from the beginning, so definitely worth watching.
I watched when I've been doing my organizing and shit.
Mhm.
I've been watching old episodes of the Avengers with Steed and Emma Peel because I
Uh-huh.
love the Avengers
Mhm.
so much, and it's been so great. I just play it. It's mostly like background. I'm listening, but every once in a while it'll catch my attention.
Mhm.
There's still That's still such an enjoyable show. That definitely hits a nostalgia bone in my body for sure because that music comes on and already I'm like, I feel really good. I can't wait to see what's gonna happen. What's Steed gonna do today? Like it's
Yeah.
yeah, Emma was an absolute babe. Yeah, she was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it's just such a good show, man.
Okay. Cool.
It's so fun kind of revisiting it.
I like watching all, but for me, it's like if it's the crime, the mystery, and the detective parts, it's just like tick tick tick. And I'm a huge fan of Vera. I mean, I don't know if you're aware of it. It's another TV show. It's a
No.
female Scottish detective who is in her, maybe when she started, maybe in her 50s and 60s now, something like that. She's a beautiful actress as well, and she has she's basically, you have 4 episodes a season most of the time, or 5 maybe if you're lucky enough, for 1 hour episode each. And it's
Hmm.
in, of course, in England once again. It's another one those where she's basically unravels, and she just always wears a trench coat with this trench hat, and she looks like,
Right.
what the hell are you doing here, kind of like, why would you even be a copper? And she is, and she's like foul-mouthed female who not afraid to basically, because she says what she sees, and she's basically
Hmm.
solving that. And it's called Vera. It's like 13 or 14 seasons.
Doesn't get you anywhere.
And I started it, and remember, I didn't know, start it from like a long time ago. Started it, so I never watched it, but I binge watched when I was sick once again as well, like one of those moments. And
Hmm.
damn, I cannot. I was like, there's this new season came out, and you're like, what the hell, man? It's almost about to finish. It's like, and you're like, why? But you can't
Yeah.
just endear with her, kind of thing. She's like, also very, has really kind of rough background because she didn't have really good
Hmm.
relationship with her father. Now she lives in the middle of nowhere. That atmosphere looks like really harsh and not friendly, because it's north of England. It's usually most of the time quite cold and all that stuff. But they now in new season seems to be they're starting to show the sunlight coming out in the kind of the beauty
Hmm.
sceneries of countryside, which England has a most beautiful ones to look at, especially in TV screen, the way they film it really
Yeah.
well, advertise themselves, and looks very picturesque, as they call it. But
Hmm.
yeah, she's another detective show I highly recommend to anybody if you want to just binge watch, because it has this moody scenes, where sometimes you just like kind of like they have a set mood for the whole show, and it's really works, and it's good acting, I think, in my opinion. But
Yeah, sweet.
I'm just a fan, so
Cool.
yeah, Vera.
So what'd you get for your birthday?
Okay, so do you want me to start first? Okay,
No, yeah, let's see.
Okay, so first I'll show you the
'Cause I
steel
think
of.
it's big stuff.
Oh shush! No, nothing is big. But this is a steal, or first a bargain I got. I went to the bookshop. I was looking for one thing. I found this one. So Warlock by
Oh,
Complete
yeah.
Collection, 75% off. I was like, no way. So original price is almost £30. I got it for £7.
Sweet.
So that is all like whatever it involves the Warlock. Since I watched the movie, thank you very much. Since I watched the movie, before Damien Sleepy the 666, he gave me one of the books he like generously shared with me, and it was with the Warlock, and I kind of enjoyed it to see. I watched the movie with Warlock, and I kind of found it that they used him in a sense of where a lot of people will misunderstand the character. And after, I'm not having finished because it's kind of very wordy, several first beginning issues, like you all know, especially the beginning like of this is the first issue, his first appearance kind of thing, and you get introduced to him. So in Strange Tales 178, and this the Jim Starling's baby basically, and Len Wein was editor in that time. And in the movie, they were kind of like true to the comic in some points. But I was thinking, why would you use a character where people basically, I was kind of confused to what use of he is. But then you have that stone in his head. It's one of Infinity Stones, which basically
Which
makes
movie
him.
was he in? Sorry.
I forgot which one it was. He was introduced into with a yellow. Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh right, yeah.
Old yellow dude, old yellow
Right.
golden looking dude. You know that race, and it's basically the way he came to be is this creature, young one, relived the mind of the baby inside a man's body.
That's
he was
right.
like used like as a tool to create, and then he basically started to kind of have his own. He started to learn, but he was just like a child in the body of a man, where he basically was. He has such a big powers, and also he had this Infinity Stone inside him. Where basically most of the powers came from, and I was always kind of confused with this Magus character, and it was like and apparently Enter the Magus, the chapter 2, and basically he is the one who himself and his alternative side to him. So he's a part like good guy, part bad guy, and he does no control over that. So he's kind of like, that's why the cocoon, when he was reborn, it's kind of complicated, and it's lots of like a bold. I absolutely love the space in this era, especially it reminds me of Doctor Strange comic books we've been reading.
Absolutely.
A lot, and but the story so far is like where he's basically escapes. He goes to kind of like start to discover himself. He finally understood that the Magus who he's trying to defeat is actually himself, and he actually can kill himself. So the only thing his choice is to just go around in space and kind of explore and understand what's happening around him, and basically teach himself. And he meets this girl who basically gives him that information where everything kicks off. But then he gets to be involved in this church, or this planet where the church is in charge of everything, and they basically completely and utterly destroy the worlds because of, like, if you're not part of the church, blah blah blah, you'll be destroyed. And apparently he also found out that this alternative self, Magus, is in charge of that church. So it's a complicated story so far to explain, because I'm not fully explored the whole premises. But if the movie has explored him to a point of him being as a baby and shown that to us, it's very confusing. There's no explanation. I don't understand sometimes when Marvel or Disney start to use that in in their movies, because they use the character as a shell of something which you don't really clearly understand. It needs a lot of time to be explained. Even the comic books is too overcomplicated for me to actually basically go for. But when you read, you cannot stop reading, because he's basically starts to go into, he gets to be they want to murder him. Then he goes into the ship, starts to say that there's lots of prisoners inside, and he's like, no, I'm not going to save anybody, because like, I am not the one who's supposed to be a savior. But then he decides and turns everything around and starts doing that, and he kills somebody who he doesn't want to kill, but because he has a stone in his head, he has no control. So the back part of himself just takes over when things needs to happen, and he does it,
Right.
and then he just completely becomes a sorrow, like, kind of like, I don't know what to do. I want to do something better than this. I don't know how to control himself. He also meets this Pip, the what is it? What is he? What is his name? Like a troll. Yeah. Oh my god, I was looking for that word in my head. Pip the troll, and I think I think he was introduced in Marvel Universe movie side. The Pip. I think he was the one who's created the weapon for Thor. When he was colliding those two
Oh,
swords. I
right.
think that's the one. This is the
Yeah, right.
character as well, if I am
Yeah,
correct.
yeah.
But that's the thing with the Marvel movies. Until you don't have lots of information, and the way they portray that in the movies, you clearly don't get enough
Yeah,
subject matter in your head, or they don't explain enough for you. But when you start reading the comic book, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Oh, why? I
yeah.
know why they're using him. But there's
They
a
treat them
greater,
as Easter eggs kind of
yeah,
thing, right?
because then there's a greater kind of sense of understanding where they could take the character to. And I think Warlock
Right.
is, so far where I'm reading him, it's just like, okay, I'm intrigued because of that two sides of him. And it's of course based in space, and absolutely the trippy pages. It's absolutely fantastic. And honestly, when you get the whole complete saga, which I'm not, as I say, I'm not fully completed to, because I'm taking my time, because there's lots of information happening in here. I'm so happy to get something like that for like £7. So the whole saga of
Hell
Warlock,
of a
I
deal.
would, yeah, proper gonna be aware of. And the art is getting, just, I love this panels. Jim Starling just kicks in and starts. I really like the space, the planets, the way they draw, the color schemes they've been using. Of course, not the same probably as in the comic book, because no, it's a reprint at the end of the day. But honestly, for that kind of like a discount sale, I was like, oh my god, I always think I could do that. Like, oh, I always can wait for the sale things happen, because it happens like once a year in this bookshop particularly I'm talking about. But sometimes I remember, sometimes I don't, and this time I do remember. And bloody females are gorgeous. And some
Hmm.
places I feel like there's lots of that era of art style where it looks overly complicated, too many lines going on. But when it comes to one point to make, where they have emotions and a sense of to tell you exactly in one panel, it's just score. It's just like the right point, the right moments, and this kind of
Yeah, right.
emotions he portrays is really beautiful to look at. So yeah, so this is a Warlock's Chimp by Chimp complete collection, which is, I don't know if it's something you guys get across the pond, or it's just made for us in UK, in Europe. But yeah, it's beautiful to, as I say, it was such a bargain. I just couldn't resist, because I wanted to make sure. I was curious about him already, and it's just lends itself, because I am fan of Doctor Strange, so
Mhm.
space, all that stuff, all the characters in here, and as I say, enriching. And also, of course, you have Thanos in here, which I'm looking forward to see, and a lot of beautiful panels to look forward to again. But it's
Mhm.
very wordy, like it's in that era, you read a lot, like a lot of information is given to you, and I'm just trying to digest it, and I don't want to rush into. But the more I look through, the more I enjoy looking at. So yeah, and then get to know the character, actually find out. And it was, as I say, it was something which I was questioned, and now I understand by reading just a couple of the issues why they
Mhm.
used him for that moment. And it's just the beginning of him. And if that movie wasn't successful enough, then he's gonna go away from
Yeah, of
screens.
course. Yeah.
But I don't know what's the like underlying choice. Are they quitting this, but then I heard they're not quitting the Marvel universe or on the movie side because everybody's now calling it is going to die because popularity is kind of waning down because people are getting tired. But
Yeah.
I think they're losing the focus. They're making the money, but they're losing the focus of what they want to do to them, rather than just
the stories aren't as good as they once were. It's just the way that it is. And I mean, some would argue that the movies were never very good, and I understand that position. I disagree with it, but I understand how people would think that. I just feel like there's like you said, there's a couple things we're all kind of tired because there's been so much. And when it gets into this kind of like dealing with these alternate universes, because one thing you were saying before about Echo, it just feels like they're in a time right now where this is the perfect time to like just throw shit at the wall and see if anything hits, because they have that built into the storyline, right? But it doesn't make for very rewarding watching when you feel like it's people just trying stuff out to see if they can have an unexpected hit on their hands, and so. But I think it's just, and also just oversaturation, right? Like there's just been so oversaturated with Marvel stuff that you burn out. That's just the way that it goes.
Yeah. I finally had the chance to watch the Aquaman, the new one, and honestly, please do not waste your time. It's
the trailer looks like a piece of shit. Yeah.
They tried so many things and nothing stuck. They tried funny that felt awkward, and sometimes the directional part. There was interesting moments, especially effect wise, where the universe of Atlantis underwater looked stunning. To be honest, in some places there's some shots are really beautiful. I was like pause and just looked. I was like, geez, that's really actually beautiful to look at. But when it comes to script and everything else, it just why? To be honest, there's so much going on for the Aquaman. If you're at least aware of the character from actual comic books, there's so much more to the character, to what they're trying to do. And they had this evil guy they went after, and then they were trying to be funny, but in awkward moments. Jason Momoa, I don't know, maybe the way the director was pointing to tell him what to do, but when he was doing some jokes, it felt awkward and uncomfortable. It's like, why? So it, kind of like I watched it, but I almost like falling asleep halfway through it because I just like, okay, what's the point? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's definitely, I highly not recommend it. If you can, if you have some time like to spare, if you feel like Jason Momoa, somebody you want, even Nicole Kidman can't save the movie. She has there like 5 scenes, maybe less. It's mainly him and his brother, who supposedly, they never grew up together, and he was in charge, but he became a bad guy. Now they have a more evil guy, the Manta's son, who Manta got killed in the first movie or whatever, and his son gone after it and wants to gain the power. He gains the power by finding this staff or like a cleaver thing, which some other ancient thing can open up, and it's like, oh, convoluted stuff. But it resolved like this: one couple of fight scenes, bing bang boom, finished. That's the whole lot of the story. Honestly, that's the movie in a nutshell. It's kind of sad, but I mean,
again, like it's the classic thing for me of like, it's what you get when you deal in the mainstream, right? Like the mainstream the mainstream is used to talking to the lowest common denominator. They're not out there to push boundaries or stretch storytelling methods or give you complex characters. Hello, Paulo Costa, by the way. Hello.
Yes. Hello. Sorry. I was deep into my disdain on some
shitting
stuff.
on Aquaman.
Oh, well, I like Aquaman.
I'm just
Don't
kidding.
get me wrong. No,
Yeah.
I'm shitting on the movie. Literally, if I could, I probably would have done it. But I absolutely love DCU's animated universe, and I think they should just get the cash there and just show whatever you have there. Because honestly, I think it's they're so good at it. Why would you not continue being good at it? Because that's where the money's supposed to go into. And they were kicking ass most of the time until something happened. Oh yeah, Marvel Universe happened in the cinema, and we can do the same thing. They almost used the same kind of humor as for by Taika Waititi's movies or
Yep.
Thor, and that didn't work. You don't have the same director. You don't have the same plot lines. Don't do funny if it feels already awkward. But anyway,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I think that's what I got from the trailer too. Even in the trailer, it's like, are they trying to make him like the DC's Thor? Like it just, yeah, it
yes,
just kind of
that's
fell
what they
flat.
were trying to do. They were
Yeah,
having him sitting down, having a beer with a,
doing laundry, you know what I
yeah,
mean?
doing
Like, yeah,
laundry. He has a
yeah, fuck
baby.
all that.
They have that chick, whoever she has problem with in her marriage, and what's her name? I don't even know her name. That red-headed chick. Anyway, so she was there basically for 5 seconds because she shouldn't be an actress anymore because of her history with her Johnny Depp's wife, whatever, ex-wife. Anyway,
Oh, that woman. Oh, right.
yes.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
she was still in the movie, but they used her like in clips, and her lines were like two words. Yeah, there you go. That's the one.
Amber Heard. Yeah,
Yeah, and her lines were like, "Hello, I'm gonna beat you," or something, and that's it. That's basically 3 times or 4 times she appeared because of her, because they had to use her. Like you can't just change an actress. Like, and I think they were already deep into
well,
filming this movie
you
when
can.
all
It just
this
costs you more
debacle.
money. Yeah,
Yeah, but I think they
yeah,
had I mean, I guess she had the contract. They had to deal with that as well. So, and that just basically,
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah,
and that kind of part, so you already have kind of ideas of the movie where they will be going. And she was, like, as I say, 4 or 3 times in the shot, and you basically forgotten that she actually existed until they mentioned her name. Oh, my wife, I love her, blah blah blah. And it
hmm
still felt like awkward. It didn't feel
hmm
real. Like, why would you even say it?
yeah,
The
yeah, yeah,
love for each other they have, and it just feels awkward once again. It's, or the way I felt it was.
yeah,
Anyway, I it's a bit of a tangent I'm going into, but
yeah. That's
I
fine. Yeah.
just didn't feel like I don't know why even you know what I was so bored. There was nothing else, I guess, and I just switched that on. I was like,
Yeah, yeah.
and the minute I did it, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to go because I'm kind of a person. If I start, I have to finish.
hmm
And then halfway, I guess I fallen asleep halfway through. To my brain was saying, okay, maybe you should just take a break. And
Yeah,
I
right.
woke up and I kind of finished it, and I was like, okay, whatever. I've seen
Yeah,
this before or whatever. So
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean,
anyway.
Paulo says the thing again. Like, I hear that movies based
Mhm.
on comics bore me. Hellboy 2 and Iron Man 3 were enough for me to say no more. And again, like, I totally understand that perspective. I think most I'm more willing to give most comic book movies a chance. Not all of them, because there's some that, like Aquaman, I have no intention of ever seeing. But like, I think it's an interesting world to explore. Again,
Yeah,
especially as the CG has kind of reached the levels that it has now. There's
yeah,
potential to see some of that imagination that was on the page on a screen.
yeah.
There's all of that stuff. But again, I don't go into these looking to have my mind blown. I go into them to shut my brain off,
Yes.
eat some shitty food,
Yeah.
listen to the kids giggle, and watch a movie. You know what I mean? Watch some shit blow up.
I'm not sure if it's gonna come true, but in our cinemas, apparently they're gonna remove food.
Remove food.
Yeah, you're not gonna be able to
That's a
have
stupid idea. That's the dumbest idea I've ever heard in my life.
no more popcorn.
That is,
Apparently,
why would they want to do that? What's the thinking there?
I think they are having a trouble
No, less
for
staff to hire, probably.
yeah, most likely to clean and stuff. Like they honestly, when you go to cinema these days in this part of the world, I'm not sure how you guys having it, but in here it feels kind of like deserted at some points. So you have one staff
Yeah,
member at the tills where they sell you your supposed food,
yeah,
and then you have one person that wherever checks your ticket, and that's it. It seems to be sometimes in some ways you just see one person, so it's kind of silly. But I'm not sure if it's, I mean, I don't know. Like, there's movie comes out, and there's no more that. Well, the only thing I heard people are really excited, which is gonna come only next year, is the new Harry Potter, because in this country, Harry Potter is quite a thing. At the end of the day, Harry, is based in here. We have based English actors, blah blah blah. And I've seen the first trailer of the new movie, and I am excited. I remember the time when I went to first Harry Potter movie when they came out, and it was a
hmm
big long time ago, and I was like, oh yeah, I
hmm
want to go and see in cinema. I'm definitely going to go, and I'm going to make my point just to go cinema, because I remember seeing the first time and I loved it. So if you're going to continue having them grown up coming and doing, and they have the same vibe to it, so that's the only thing I feel like myself being excited about cinema. But lately, honestly, there's not movie where I'm like, should I really? Do I need the big screen? Because sometimes,
Mhm.
because oh, okay, one thing into my account, if I want to go to the movie, I can't because there's my child next to me, so I'm not gonna take him. So there's that
Yeah,
option of saying, okay, don't bother. But if
yeah,
I
yeah.
would have probably a choice, it's not really as much as entertaining as anything, to be honest,
Mhm.
yet to come out. Or I'm
I
not
mean,
as
for me,
excited.
it's easy for me to go to the theater, and again, because it's the spectacles. Like, I would not have. I mean, I would still enjoy Godzilla -1 if I saw it on my TV, but I
I
enjoyed it
wanted
so
to,
much more because I saw it in the theater. And then just
yeah,
to touch on your whole theater movies in general, like
yeah.
theaters are dying. Like, I don't know what the pre-show is for you in the UK, but here we have like there's commercials which drive me fucking mental. There's trailers. Then there's also like these little kind of infomercials, interviews with celebrities talking about the new
Mm,
movie. Every single one of those clips, every single one of them, it's like the writing for all of the actors is the same. At some point, you need to mention go and see this movie in a theater. They are so desperate to get people coming back to the theaters because people
mm.
just aren't going. Because again, what's the point for most of the stuff that comes out? What does it matter if I see it on a big screen or my TV? It doesn't matter. Like there's really no reason to go. And because we see it here at our, like, I've got a theater, like, I don't know, I could walk to it in 10 minutes. That's how close it is. And it's one of
Mm.
the bigger ones because it's attached to a mall. And when we go to see movies there, we're always surprised at how empty the theaters are. It's just nobody goes to the theaters anymore. They just don't care, right? So yeah, we've had a
Yes,
couple close in our town as well too, Miss. So
yeah, that's the thing. I barely understand how the cinema in generally can survive for the amount of people you see at the moment. Or maybe I'm not going as often as I, like other people do. Then there's
mhm.
people, a lot of people who's like I've heard like talk to, and they kind of do. I heard some people who don't even haven't been in cinema for like years. There's
Yeah,
nothing for them to get excited about. There's
yeah, that's right.
nothing where, because
And
as we
COVID
say,
scared people a lot as well going into theaters.
yeah,
Like there's people that I still hear from, not as much anymore, but
yeah,
that are still nervous about going into those environments because they still
mhm,
have that
yeah.
COVID brain, of that something horrible is going to happen to them. So I think that's a contingent too.
Yeah, I don't it's a lots of like those commercial, like I don't know, maybe it's just because we have this screens or TVs at home, which is some people have ginormous sized televisions at home. So what's the point for you going to cinema in generally? Why you have
Yeah.
to listen some a dude next to you cough his lungs out, or cough or talk over you, and that
Yeah.
becomes a thing now,
Yeah.
because I think when if I don't know, if, I will always think what would appeal to me for me to be willing to spend more on time in cinemas is maybe
Hmm.
specialized cinemas. I used to always like those obscure, small, like you say, small surviving
Hmm.
cinemas because they tend to invite the crowds who not everyone is going into. You know what I mean? So as a certain crowd somehow it. Gets drawn into to go into those kind of small cinemas, and I enjoyed the environment. Like I really enjoyed one of the best experience I had in cinema was in London, where you have your own table, you have your chairs, your own table,
Hmm.
like 10, 15 at the max tables with chairs, so that's not a big screen whatsoever, and that
Yeah.
feels like the close knit environment, which makes me feel like, okay, maybe it's nice, and you don't tend to have the overcrowded stuff and all that stuff. But I have barely remember seeing full cinema, like when
Yeah.
I went into. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, and that's just what I was going to say to Miss So. She's saying,
Yeah,
I just got tired of the noise at the theaters. Is like, well, you won't have to worry about it now because the theaters are mostly empty. Even if you go on opening
yeah,
day, you're
yeah.
not going to have a full theater. So you probably won't experience any of that. It's
Hmm.
people that want to be there. And again, that's part of the fun too of going to the theater, right? Like, especially
Yeah.
seeing horror movies, it becomes like a roller coaster ride where you're reacting with the audience and you hear people screaming, and it kind of adds to the whole thing. I mean, I don't think I'll ever stop going to the movie theaters because I also just like the experience of going, you know what I mean? Like, even if it's something that is kind
Hmm.
of not
Hmm.
necessary to see in the theater, I still want to go. It still feels like a thing, like to go to the theater and get out of the house. And, so
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's up to you, obviously. I mean, you do what you want to do, but I would say that you'll probably have a bit of a different experience these days because
Yeah.
it's just they're so empty.
Yeah, I don't know what
And luckily, we
makes.
still have a little art house theater downtown as well too, called the Cinematheque, and that
Mhm.
one brings in a lot of awesome movies. So and that's a really small theater. So when you go, if there's 100 people in there, that's the place full, right? So yeah,
Cool.
stuff like that. Like seeing that on a big screen can be absolutely part of the fun.
I heard like you talked about Godzilla minus one, and I really wanted to go, but
Yeah,
then there's the difficulty of finding the right, for me anyway. But I knew I've seen somebody talking like raving IMAX, the big screen for the Godzilla is a must because of the sheer
unreal.
volume of the character you're going to see on the screen. So I think that
Mhm.
definitely would be something I that would have wanted to see in the screen. But yeah, it's kind of interesting with that cinema stuff. I kind of want to have that. There's like excitement once again going like, oh, will we gonna like getting the seats in the right time in the right space kind of thing. It's kind of
Mhm.
I really enjoyed it. Like I say, I clearly remember those first Harry Potter movies I went into. I was giddy, honestly, and I
Mhm.
sat for those hours, and oh, I was so the one where I started drawing the line was Lord of the Rings. Like those 2-3 hour movies. The first time they were bringing that hours in the cinema, and I remember when going to, I was like, Jesus. I even myself said, well, that's long, even though it's packed of action movie. And that's the first time I probably realized, Jesus, people are making movies now long this time. 3 hours in cinema is a long ass time. You realize
That's a
just
long
after
time.
you leave, you're like,
Yeah,
whew, what time is it? It's kind of like disillusioned from the
yeah.
time and space where you just spent. But yeah, anyway, I'm just
The
interested.
I started seeing Godzilla minus one toys out there now. Well, I was at
Oh
the comic
no.
shop yesterday to pick up yeah, exactly. Oh no is right. Luckily, this one was higher up on a shelf where it would actually been a bit of work for me to pull it down to
Oh,
have a look at it. So I didn't have a
you
look
can,
at it, but I
yeah.
did see the price tag on the front, $259. It was the box was kind of like this. So I'm sure the figure looks fucking spectacular, but it's
Mhm.
just like I don't need to look at that stuff. But I've started noticing Godzilla stuff all over the place now again, like because the Godzilla Kong is coming out as well too. So
Is
they even
it?
have like the reaction figures. There's some glow in the dark ones that I had in my hand, and I'm like, I don't need it, and I just put it back. So I'm proud of myself. But it's just like some of those things. It's
Oh,
yeah, you don't need that shit. But
I yeah.
fucking Godzilla minus one, best movie I've seen in forever. And it's, yeah, I ran into a guy at the shop when I went to pull up my pull list, and he saw it as well. So with the three of us started kind of talking about it, and
Mhm.
it's, yeah, just unbelievable that it's a giant monster movie that's supposed to be that is now this other thing that you just didn't expect of like, holy shit, that's
Okay, then.
actual story, that's actual characters, that's actually people that that care about telling a good story. Yeah, no, not $250 worth. Me as well. I love Godzilla, but that's ridiculous prices. But
I really
there's
want to
people out there
see.
buying it.
Is it already available on whatever DVD or Blu-ray?
Not yet. No, no, not yet. And I'm waiting for it because I'm gonna get
Yeah.
it for sure. Because they've also had a re-release in the United States where it's Godzilla minus one minus color. So they've done it black and white, which because that really kind of fits in with it's supposed to be kind of pre the original Godzilla, right? So
Oh,
they
okay.
did a black and white version that they put in the theaters. And again, if it played here, I would have gone to see it a third time. And I'm hoping that for the Blu-ray they have that version on it because I would like
Mhm.
to see that. It's digital, black and white, which always looks, like
Mm,
the whole thing about black and white is the texture, the age, all of that kind of things. It's the
yeah.
actual hot lights in the room, like these arc lights. So it's
Mm,
the actual, whereas digitally, it's a little too clean. You know what I mean? It's always a little too sharp. So, but
mm.
I would like to see it in that version. So,
Okay.
but that's because I'm a junkie.
But that's what I'm waiting for to see if they're gonna come out when the minute it comes into well, Blu-ray, whatever that already has in digital format, and then they can, if you don't want to buy it, then you watch that because I tend to, do that way, that route
Yeah,
rather than physical because
yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of things is in physical around me, like just getting so
They're
it's
doing
becoming too much
like
clutter.
they're doing a double LP release of the soundtrack as well too. That's pretty pricey,
Oh,
but again, it's like I would love to have that. And for me, the physical is always a big part of it, and it's one of those things. It's one of the
Yeah, yeah.
rare occasions though where the day that movie comes out on Blu-ray, I'll be going to pick it up somewhere. Like it's one of those moments for me where it's
Well,
like it was for Killing in the Name, Killing Them Softly. It was the
uh-huh.
same thing. I loved that movie so much that the day it came out on Blu-ray, I went and bought it. I think that was probably the last time that I did that. That I'm that excited about a movie, you know, and a story, right? So
I don't remember the last time I bought Blu-ray, to be honest.
mm.
I
We got a
don't.
great place in town at one of the smaller malls where you can trade stuff in. And we've done that a bunch of times over the years. We bring
Yeah.
stuff that, because it's so hard to sell some of this stuff online. It
Oh
takes
yeah.
so long. It's sometimes
Oh,
people don't want to buy it. So this guy's really good. I go and trade stuff in. And he also carries a shit ton of amazing movies because he'll buy anything, but he also really buys like the smaller publishers, not publishers, sorry, the smaller DVD companies, like production companies. And he'll have a lot of really cool stuff to choose from. So that's been a real bonus having a place like that in town. And now that I've known him for so many years, he stopped buying DVDs for a little while because
mhm.
they just weren't selling. So I came in to trade in a bunch of DVDs, and I'm like, I saw the sign. I'm like, ah, shit. He said, no, we'll take whatever you got because I know you're gonna have something that we can sell, right? So
Yeah.
it's nice having that relationship. But we've gotten some great movies. Even Lillian traded in some of her movies that are too young for her now. He gave
Mhm.
her a really good trade value. So she got like the Lego movie. What else? She got a couple of other movies. I don't even remember what they are, but so, nice to be able to recycle that stuff
It's
easily.
it's it's funny, but there's several stuff I always wanted to have because the things what we always tend to watch in like repeat watch. So there's the only ones, and I never got hold of it on the actual physical. And I always think about it. It's a mainstream stream shop where you buy DVDs, games, all your goodies, whatever comes to technology in generally. So you can sell those off, but then it depends if it's popular. If you wait too long, then the value of it just kind of gets reduced. So we don't really
Yeah.
have the a man like you have, like the one who is actually dealing with the whole by himself in the shop. So we have that commercialized part. It's great when you want to get rid of a lot of crap, but it isn't great when the value of your, like, say, one DVD cost give you a 12p back. It's like, oh, okay, is it worth it really? Me tripping for the but when you want to get rid of, like, you want to really get rid of your stuff, it's a great place just to
Yeah.
dump into. And you, of course, they give you more money for store credit when you give actual cash.
That's right.
Because
Yeah,
they want
exactly
you to
right.
come back, blah blah
Yeah.
blah. But it's the good way, for example, to buy the games. For example, we're not the huge gamers, but when we do want to have a game, it's actually a good way for you to sell whatever you have to get a new one, so
Mhm.
you never kind of have to pay full price.
That's
Which
right.
is another a horse way we can talk about a gaming and industry. And what's basically my Blu-ray player is my gaming console. That's the only
Mhm.
way I can watch Blu-rays these days, because I don't have a Blu-ray player. I used to have it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That's the only way I could actually watch Blu-rays is through gaming console, which we have.
Right.
We do have it, but as I say,
I
we
mean, that's
barely
good
use in
that
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 sense.
works though, right? So you
Oh yeah.
don't have to actually get another device. So that's pretty great.
Well, that's of course save space. That's the
Yeah.
great part of it. That's definitely
Mhm.
a good thing. But I mean, we are. But what I'm trying to say is the gaming is wearing off that. So we're reducing the
Mm.
amount of you being able to actually save cash in buying, because gaming industry is absolutely bonkers when it comes to pricing for anything like
They
a new thing.
sure as shit are, man. Yeah.
60 pounds, no,
It's
70 pounds for a new
crazy expensive.
Spider-Man game when it came out. I mean,
Yeah.
70? I mean, it's like, how ridiculous. What kind of child would come, Mommy, Daddy, what do you want me to do for the rest of my life in order to me to have a game?
Yeah,
70
right.
pounds. Where do you work that out? I mean, of course, if you have money to shun around, yeah, that's not, I'm not talking about you, but we're talking about people who basically, are you sure? I'm going to buy you
Yeah.
when your birthday comes in like 2 years later.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
going to give you that kind of money to spend on the game. It's just ridiculous. But that, what I'm trying
Yeah,
to
it's
say, they're trying to
expensive.
remove the physical media in the gaming
Mhm.
industry so that we only buy online. So
Yep.
there's no way for you, like for me, I used to live on. sell my own shit in order to buy something cheaper so I can actually continuously playing the games, because
Mhm.
then it becomes like a different part of the, you still can enjoy your gaming things, but don't have to always pay full price. But now the child these days, everything is online.
Yeah.
The only thing you have to be bothering to buy is the cloud space on your whatever
And it's
device
an
you're
interesting
using.
way to think of it too, right? Because you don't have that physical copy to
Mm,
trade in. So then
yeah,
how soon are you going to lose people? So I mean, when I
yeah.
think of like myself, again, understanding that I'm very fortunate in where I live and stuff, but like the idea of if I didn't have a place to trade stuff in, I
Mhm.
wouldn't buy movies. I just wouldn't at all because like, well, I can't buy everything. So the whole point of being able to see some other stuff and keep some place in business, because there's the other side of it too. So by going back to this guy's store, I'm helping keeping him in business, which is helping him and his couple employees stay employed. And then also because he has his store in a small shopping mall, that
Yeah.
also helps keep that shopping mall going. So this idea of now everything is digital, I don't have anything that I can trade in. So I'm not going to buy anything anymore
Yeah.
because I have 5 games. I would love
Yeah.
to try out that game and trade in some of my old ones, but I can't because they don't really exist. So I
Mhm.
wonder how early it is you're going to be losing your consumers in areas like that with things not being physical, because that's a big component of keeping people in the loop on things, right?
Another thing is, as you go into those, like, I would love if I would have a comic book shop to go into and actually go into comic book shop buying the stuff, because you have a conversations, face to face conversations.
Yeah.
You open up yourself to people and you become vulnerable when it comes to conversation with a generalized public. Now you want to get rid of that, all the physical stuff will lose the kids going in and socialize and talk about maybe just online with your
Hmm.
headphones, but not physical face to face conversations anymore. So you don't
Hmm.
go into like a gaming. I don't. When I used to go to the gaming shops. The kids were excited. They talk about the game. They get really riled up. Oh my god, my friend is gonna get it. And so now we're all gonna talk about. It's the same thing. So socializing and finding the ways of finding the same mind like people. Now you get doing
Right.
that as well. So
Yeah.
who? So online only. So now just a
And also just
screen and.
the act of just getting up and going somewhere to do it, right? Like you
Mhm.
can, you may still have that interaction online and things, maybe not to the same kind of um deep down satisfaction, but it's also, you don't need to get your fat ass up. You can sit in your chair and have those interactions. Whereas like, especially when I was a kid and we're living across town, it's like if I want to go and see some things, I got to get my ass up, get on a bus,
Yeah.
like go out and actually participate, right? So but and then like Miss So was saying, you comes a time like you can't afford everything. You just can't. Like there's so much entertainment being thrown at us. It's like we have to be picky and choosy because nobody can afford everything. It's like there's so many castles and we're all so many goldfish that it's like we need one specific thing, and that's also where they spread themselves too thin, right? But
Mm.
yeah. And it is
Yeah.
sad to see some of it go because I grew up in those, and that's where it's hard for me to kind of differentiate me being just an old man yelling at clouds, because it's like it was a part of my childhood. It was a part
Yeah.
of Jaden's childhood because it was a part of my childhood.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people where it's just not part of their deal. They don't feel like they're missing on anything because they never knew it to begin with. It wasn't
Mhm.
part of their reality going to these shops. But I think it's super sad seeing all these places close, because again, I see our city deteriorating because there's so many physical shops that are closing, that our
Mm.
whole city is suffering because of those things closing. There's not enough traffic. There's a lot of abandoned buildings. There's a lot of empty space, so it has a bigger impact.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the gaming as well. He is right about you buying in order to
Yeah,
get the
absolutely.
software you can be accessed. But at the end of the day, by selling that whatever physical item, you used to get money back just because the ability for you to access it online. But that ability to actually gain something back, it always had appeal to anybody. Do you know what I mean? If you can save something on something else, then yes, it's properly done. But now we want to get rid of it because what they're pushing now is all about the mobile gaming, blah blah blah, all that.
Mhm.
All your handheld devices are on the next big gaming thing, which a lot of people are talking about. But then, anyway, it's just becoming so much more everything on the screen and less
Yeah.
being interactive face to face and just being paranoid by hearing or seeing or looking at the title of some article and get paranoid about it. And that's the only thing what's going to come out of it, because you're physically not talking to people, because you couldn't be bothered to get out. And the Wall-E cartoon movie, where they are in those ships running away for some kind of a Eden, and where they only looking at the screen and everything is pumped up and you don't have any more mass because your body is kind of splitting into becoming like a balloon. This looks like our future, that's for sure. And they were foreseeing that in that Wall-E cartoon movie, which is kind of interesting. When we forgot how to walk because we just need to sit or lie down and just put our headphones in and just become a
plug into the Matrix, man.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, just take a red pill or blue pill, and there you go.
Exactly. Red pill.
Yeah.
We have more empty buildings too, is what Mrs. So was saying. Yeah, and that's the problem. Yeah. Nobody is utilizing our space. Like nobody is coming and turning them into anything. They're just sitting there empty, and then they're building new buildings in these areas of town that are deteriorating. And guess what those buildings are? They're condos. Well, who's moving into the fucking condos if there's nothing in the neighborhood? You know what I mean? So it's like, and then again, our classic thing is there's literally people living in bus shelters downtown, and we have these empty fucking buildings, and it's a goddamn travesty, and it's frustrating, and it's, affordable housing, some sort of programs downtown. We need a lot of programs for Indigenous people downtown. We need safe spaces for people to go if they're dealing with addiction. Like a lot of cities, we have a big addiction problem, and they're just sitting there empty, and it's infuriating every time I drive. And for years, there's this one building specifically that drives me nuts. It's been sitting empty for years. It used to be housing. It's now got a fence around it because they don't want squatters getting in and claiming the building, basically, because there's squatters' rights if you're in a place for X amount of time, et cetera, et cetera. But they're not doing anything with the space, and it's been vacant for years at this point. And it infuriates me every time I have to drive by it, because again, right across the street is a motherfucker living in a tent. You know what I mean? And it's minus 30 outside, and it's disgusting. Yeah, it's disgusting.
Oh my God.
Anyway.
Okay. On that note, once again, your turn. It's your turn.
I didn't read it yet, but I'll talk about this one quickly.
Oh.
Look what a facsimile, or whatever DC calls it, came out. I was as I was going through my books, I was regretting, because I used to have the free comic book day one, but I graded it and sold it and made some money off of it. And then I was going through my books. I'm like, shit, now I don't have that first issue. Boom. Here it is again. So
it came out?
I don't know
when it came out?
I guess it just came out last week. I have a feeling. I'm not really sure. There was quite a few of them left on the shelf. So that's why I'm assuming it came out just this past Wednesday. So I haven't read it yet. I've read it in the past because I love the Batman Beyond world. I think is really great. The show was really awesome.
Are you gonna stop putting me onto Batman comics? Come on, Terrence.
Sorry, you never read Batman Beyond?
No, it's the one I haven't yet touched. No. Yeah, stop showing me the art.
It's great stuff.
No. Terry Beatty. Yes, I know Terry Beatty.
On the name. Anyway, it's Rick Burchett, penciler. Yeah. Harry Bader, writer. Terry Beatty, inker. Yeah. So Lee Luridge, colorists. It's great stuff. So I'm really glad that I love that they're doing these, whatever DC calls them, facsimiles, whatever. I love that they're doing this kind of stuff, both companies, because it just gives you a chance to get that kind of key issue and not have to be.
How do you think? Is it still hot cakes on an original copy of it? Do you think?
I don't know how much. I can't even remember how much I got for mine. Mine graded really high as well. I think I did pretty good on it. So I think it's still kind of one of those books that's worth some money. And then the one I'll talk about that I actually read, again, it won't be very long.
Okay.
Continuing with Firefly, The Fall Guys. Issue number 2. So they're doing Francavilla covers. I'm trying to get the Francavilla covers because I think his style for covers is really great. I really like his stuff. So this one is kind of like the crew is being set up as the trying to be assassinators of the prime minister. So it's been a setup. They were put onto this job, and then they realized way too late that, holy shit, we're being made the patsy here for some attempt on someone's life. And it's so now we're kind of knee deep in kind of the gun battle as they're wanted criminals on this planet. And I'm forgetting the name of the planet now. It's still pretty enjoyable. This issue was maybe a little less enjoyable as previous ones because the conversation, the writing was pretty stilted. It was kind of like just hitting these beats. There wasn't much characterization going on in this particular issue, and it's also, I'm still getting used to the new roles. Like there's a new character. Malcolm Reynolds isn't the captain anymore at this point. And again, it's the same thing. Like the art is fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but it is tough to recognize some of the characters that we should know that are kind of crew of the Serenity because they don't look like them. Like that's Haley, the mechanic, for example. That's what's her name? Inara, the kind of prostitute lady there. So it makes it hard when you look at those faces and you're like, who the fuck? Companion, I guess is what they call them.
Or companion, yeah.
So it makes it hard to follow sometimes when you can't recognize, like that's River Tam and Simon, you know what I mean? And it's like, well, that doesn't fucking look like him. So sometimes you get a little like, who am I looking at here? What are their names? But exactly. I mean, again, I still dig it because it's Firefly universe, so I'm still liking it.
So you're going strong with all the new stuff because there's quite a few of them, or am I getting confused with some other series?
New stuff of Firefly or just new comics in general?
New Firefly.
Yeah, there's been a couple of things, and then also I just recently finished all that previous run that came out years ago, so that's why it's been a lot for me lately because I kind of watched the show again and then got refocused on like, oh yeah, I want to read more of the books, and then found a bunch of them in town here and filled those gaps. And I got to get back to that, reading that series. I haven't kind of dug in because I just haven't read tons lately. I love it. It's, again, comfort food, right? It's like a comfy sweater. Sit down and read it. I know, like you said with Usagi, I just know I'm going to sit down and read Firefly and it's going to be good. It might not be mind-blowing, but it's going to be good and comforting, right? So
okay, if you mention Usagi, I'll go for Usagi then.
Yeah,
so only comic floppy I have for this reading time. So Space Usagi issue Death Honor issue 2 of 3. Did you read that one as well? Did you picking it up?
Sure as hell did. I read it yesterday. Yeah. I picked it up yesterday at the shop and made sure that I read it.
So don't you? It has that Star Trek Star Wars vibe to it instead of having to be, of course, it's a Usagi or Yojimbo universe, but it has that vibe because the wording he's using and some of the dialogue he's like, what I'm reading? I'm a Star Wars, Star Trek, what? But it's Usagi Yojimbo, which I really like this Space Saga story so far. It's very like those when the moments when he's trying to escape, somebody's shooting behind him, and the way he's sort of trying to maneuver, and this artwork is really lends for itself, and it's like
and the coloring on that page too that you just showed. I love the coloring on that page.
And I also like the names of the ships they call it. This ship they basically having track thingy. It's called Shark, which is exactly what it looks like it as well. So that's I like Shark that moment that Stan Sakai is using. But in generally, this one is basically 2 feuding sides. One seems to be lost at the main part of the castle, whatever, in space. I don't know what that momentum is. And Usagi is tasked to save a son who is supposed to be a new heir to the legacy and everything, and he's supposed to marry somebody else. An arranged marriage, and the star of and this scene. Okay, don't you think that's like a Darth Vader going into the room with his,
Sure.
Exactly. So he has, of course, he's using those moments to lend himself.
I mean, everything in these kind of worlds for me always comes back to samurai movies. So this makes perfect sense because in my mind, Westerns are samurai movies. Star Wars is samurai movies. They're all samurai movies. So this makes perfect sense to me that it would work.
So yeah, and it's like they're having this lady who reads the minds. She even touches the dead guy's head, and she's trying to tell, oh, his brain is kind of decaying already, it's way too late, but I have still
Yeah.
some information. And you're like, oh my god, this is like
Still
imagining that.
haven't.
But that's the thing, what we want to have. Are we still there when we die or
Yeah,
not?
yeah,
So
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
thing, it's kind of revelation in that. I really like the shadows part, the way Sansakai using for Usagi Ojimbo in
Mhm.
that moment where his face is completely
Looking at
lit,
that
but then the
screen.
background is there. It's kind of scratchy in the way he's using the ink lines. And I absolutely adore when he uses the eyes in the background. If it's in the distance, just the two dots, and it really
Uh-huh.
works because it's very
Yeah.
kind of manga-ish style to that
Very
things
Charles
happening.
Schultz.
Yeah, and this moment, this like stunned look by Usagi Ojimbo. It's the way we land and they see a dinosaur, and he's like, "What the hell is going on here? I don't know what's going
Mhm.
on here." It's kind of like a baffling is exactly what it is. But the winner for me is appearance of this chick and how Usagi is completely changes the way he
Yeah,
is. No more
yeah,
being this macho dude.
yeah.
He's
And his
completely
eyes,
like,
and how he uses the eyes. Usagi's
yeah.
eyes now become like these little dots. It's
Yeah, he's
very
completely
effective
like
cartooning, man.
absolutely, amazed by the look of this female, and she's actually a strong princess, and she's supposed to marry that prince he's basically
Uh-huh.
saving, and he's like, oh my god, I'm supposed to be just the road, and I'm doing
She's
my
so
job. What the
old.
hell is, yeah. And yeah, he's calling her extremely old because the age gap is quite significant. I think he's like what in teenage years, yes, like less like
I guess.
12,
Yeah,
14s maybe, because the way
yeah.
like the way it was setting. But it's really good, it's nice, and the action is quite actually I don't know how many pages it is, but it felt like way more when you would expect from Usagi comic. Usually comes reads like
32
really quick.
pages, maybe 30
Yeah, for the
pages.
yeah, so it's much bigger than what your atypical Marvel comic book you would, let's say, get, which is like 20 something pages
22
sometimes
or
these days.
something. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so really good. And they have this moment, yeah. So Usagi Ojimbo's eyes completely like dotted because they're having a
Yeah.
moment there. The moment of
Yeah.
almost, oh, sorry, I'm covering that moment of, vulnerability.
And then you
Yeah,
get those
shame.
two panels when he gets found out that are phenomenal. Like
Yeah,
those two panels are
yeah,
powerful. Like you feel kind of like
yeah,
I know what you were fucking doing and you should be ashamed of yourself. Because then you turn the page and Usagi is ashamed of himself for
yeah,
doing what he did. And that's
exactly.
a super cool. I hope he really digs into that a little bit. Like, I
Yeah.
hope they don't get together. I hope that this really becomes like this whole honor thing. Like I've dishonored myself and I've dishonored my
Oh yeah,
master.
yeah. I think it's not
It's
gonna
so
happen.
awesome.
Nothing else gonna
Yeah.
happen between that. That's the moment you're probably gonna get between two of them, and
Yeah.
he's gonna be tormented for the rest of his whatever being
Rest of
because
his
he
life.
just went past, the threshold
Yeah.
he's supposed to be going through. Miss
Right.
So have you been reading Spawn like from the get go? I'm curious because you say if it's like your cozy read. I'm curious because the Spawn has been what is it like 300 something
Almost
odd 400?
350 issues now. I think they're creeping up on 350.
Yeah, isn't it they making a big deal out of 350 something like that? And
I think so.
something
Yeah.
he's
I
gonna
think
be
he's doing
like
a big deal.
signing something. I don't know. I haven't fully.
Yeah. I mean,
But
it
if
would make
you,
sense, man. That's a hell of an accomplishment. So
yeah, if you're reading from that con, I mean, yeah,
yeah.
it's crazy how I have not never got into fully Spawn. I read some stuff, but because of
Mhm.
I know why, because there was a time they weren't reprinting that much, or it was difficult to get hold of the media in generally, like
Yeah.
by bit, like to get into the mood.
I remember reading
Yeah,
Spawn
yeah, no?
Dark Ages and liking it. I
Yeah.
remember reading there was a couple of Spawn titles that I was reading that I was enjoying back in like
Oh,
2000, 2001. And then I read the Sam and Twitch series as well too. And at the time I really liked the Sam and Twitch series because it was kind of like your private detective kind of thing, right? Hellspawn was the other one that I was reading that I
yeah.
enjoyed as well.
I can't spell. Don't worry, it's fine. Yeah, isn't it people were going like really crazy for this gunslinger spawn or whatever it's called?
Yeah, I guess it's a thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's another one. The people were like, oh yeah, this is the one you should just actually read because if you want to know kind of spawn what it's all about, anyway.
Hmm.
Okay, who's next? You, me, you,
Yeah, sure.
if you have.
The final issue of
Oh, oh. Final issue.
The final issue of Dracula came
Oh
out as
yeah.
well.
Oh wow. Okay.
The James Tinian and
Yeah.
Martin Simmons.
Yeah.
It was great. It
Mhm.
was a really good miniseries. So what, 4-issue miniseries, super heavy, thick cardstock cover, some pretty amazing art inside. And again, it's I loved it. I'm surprised at how much I enjoyed it. It's not mind-blowing storytelling or anything, but it was just really, I thought it was just really well done overall. And I love going through the pages and seeing the art. I think it's really, really nice stuff. So at the end of it, I'll just show you a couple of the good kind of spreads here. Like this is a nice kind of title page for Dracula.
Look at that.
Yeah. It's super cool. So you get some really nice moments like that. But it stays, from what I remember, it stays fairly true to the original kind of Bram Stoker's Dracula. Yeah. Doesn't really deviate too much, but I think he's just effective. His art is so effective. So the exciting thing about this was, because I was always wondering why it was called Universal Monsters, and someone, I'll just show you these back pages as well too. Like, look at that shit.
Oh wow, look at that.
Fucking amazing. So somebody writes in a letter and asks like, hey, are you going to be doing anything else? And they are. So the next one they're doing from the Universal Monsters line is Creatures from the Black Lagoon. And it's going to be written by Dan Waters, and Ram V is going to be one of the writers as well too. So, and it comes out April 2024. So there's kind of the cover for it. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, lovely.
So Dan Waters, Ram V, and then a couple of artist names one artist name that I don't recognize, Matthew Roberts, and then colored by Dave Stewart. So that's a good thing.
Oh, Dave Stewart, yeah.
So pretty cool that they're going to do more of Universal Monster stuff. I think that might be a fun line. And again, it'll all depend on who they have writing and art. I'm for sure going to give that next one a shot because,
because you're a fan of Ram V, aren't you? Do you enjoy?
I do like Ram V. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I do think he's. I can't say I've loved everything that I've read from him, but I've liked more of it. I liked the Independence couple of things that I've read. His Swamp Thing, I was digging it at the time. It got too convoluted. I didn't think it was that good by the end, honestly. I ended up buying the whole thing anyway, just cause. But yeah, I'm curious to see what he does. And again, like you're working within this niche, like there's expectations if you're going to be doing a Creature from the Black Lagoon. So I don't think they're going to get much room to really expand on anything. I think it's going to be pretty run of the mill, but we'll see what the art looks like.
So was this like a run of the mill storyline you are aware of and you just enjoy because of a piece of art?
Yeah, just because of the art, because the rest of it was whatever. I mean, I've heard the Dracula. We've all heard the Dracula story how many times? Like 75 million fucking times. Like, and so it was kind of the words were on the page and that got me moved through the page, but there was nothing that really stood out writing wise. It was the art that was really enjoyable.
So I don't know if I asked you that before, maybe I did, but is he like a digital artist or is he media artist?
Apparently I'd heard that he's actually painting these, so it's not digital. That's what I hear. But again, my eye, I don't know, because some of it looks digital to me. But again, who the fuck am I? If he says he's painting them, I'm gonna believe him. So
because if there is a painting of that just would be lovely to see. You know what I mean? Because that kind of even it translates well on the piece of like even you just showing on the screen. If that translates so well on the piece of paper printed, imagine that would be on actual. Like real thing, because that's
actual
just
thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because like that stylistically way of drawing is really kind of like a dreamy, like states, because he's using it depends what media is using on that. Looks like more of a watercolor than anything else, but maybe mixed media either. But it's just as I say, it's just like looks like you want to see that on painting because on the wall because that looks like it's supposed to be there, kind of thing. And I get it. Why would you? Yeah. And I would. Like in bigger format, it's definitely like a magazine size. That would be just like stunning, probably to look at as well. It looks really good, and art-wise, I definitely know why would you pick that, because of the art and why people are talking about more than anything else. To be fair, so good for that. Good for the artist.
Shit, yeah.
Okay. So another present.
Yeah.
I decided to this time not wait in libraries because at Brubaker, oh there you go, I already say at Brubaker is something I always, I always want, but I got this.
Oh, sweet.
So this one wasn't easy to get hold of, to be honest. It was kind of selling out quite a few times in that time in January. So I decided to actually I couldn't wait, and it's a mystery, and the title basically what drew me in. So where the body was, and knowing Ed Brubaker and his things, I didn't put the hopes too much high because I wasn't really sure where it's too mysterious to understand what's happening in here, and it's a story in Pelican Road, summer 1984. So it's in the past. He and it's entertaining. I'll tell you one thing. You have a cast of characters, so it's very much of what Edward Baker and Sean Fenley has been doing so far. It's a mystery. You have those creatures in here on the piece of paper, where who is going to be as the main story. Okay, so what surprised me the most, everything is felt like idyllic story beginning, where you have a basically a small history what happened in that street. So you have it's all surrounded by this building where basically the scene of the story kind of started it. And it has a story where a happy couple, who got married, had this ginormous house in the street. A man went to the army, he died. The old lady lived after by herself, but then she decided to make it into a house of what she said it turned it a boarding house. And then she was kind of like having people coming in and out, blah blah blah. And then she dies, and then she has three heirs who basically fights for the property, and then it's a basic derelict. So it stays in that street and becomes like a place where people don't want to go and look at because it's all run down. Nobody takes care of it anymore, and there's just that house where kids go into or do some shit, like paint or like play loud music as they call it, and do drugs inside it, kind of thing. And there's this lady who's basically starts telling the story. She's a neighbor, and there's a story happening. So there's a mystery, and it's unravels itself really slowly, and it's actually quite a, I don't know why, but this felt quite a read for Ed Brubaker, because he had 9 characters to go around in the storyline to actually
Oof, yeah.
I'll unravel you a story to tell. And everything went smoothly. It just started from 3 of kids having this row between each other, and one dude appears out of nowhere. I'll show you. This guy appears, shows the badge, and basically dismantles all of them to get rid of one a bad seed. And from that point onwards, kind of story unravels. There's a lot of raunchy scenes, by the way, in this one, which I was taken by surprise, to be honest, because I haven't seen it in a while, because he's going about murder and solving the murders and mysteries on that sense. So the raunchy part of it was never in his books for, like, I mean, some of them were, but I'll show you. Okay, should I show you?
Yeah.
Kids friendly channel of mine.
Yep.
Look away.
Ba-boom. Can't go wrong with boobies.
Yeah, and then basically it happens in several pages. They are like going at it like rabbits, but this is like I'm not going for it's one of the characters involved, and until you get to the body part, it takes a whole of a long read of a story until you find out what this body starts going on, because as I say, it has lots of characters to unravel, all of them very intriguing. This chick, she's not Vietnamese, she dressed like a superhero because she kind of like reads comic books, and she's like Asian, and she's already been bullied because she's Asian, and now she's reading comic books extra, and now she dresses up as superhero in the neighborhood, so of course extra on top of her. And then basically she's all grown up and telling the story why she was doing that, kind of like what's the feel of it was in that. And all of them kind of like you have that guy with the badge who basically having this raunchy scenes with the other person's wife, and then you will discover another story behind that couple, how that unraveled. And it's kind of the way I maybe explain it's not great, but I don't want it to actually even tell you the whole story of this, because you need to read
Mhm.
it to understand what's happening. But honestly, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I had to
That's good
flip
to hear.
page and after page and after page to understand what's happening in here. And I was waiting for that murder scene, because that's what I thought is going to happen from the beginning. But no, it was about the street where everybody was living in, and people in that moment, in basically they all got involved to one thing happening. And who killed it afterwards, it explained in an interesting way, and stuff like that. Because I was thinking he's not going to explain it to us. I thought he's
Mm,
going to just
mhm,
leave it at the end,
mhm.
but thankfully he kind of did to explain to us. It's really cool. It has really good moments with every character who gets involved. Why are there? It's all explained as well. Kind of a lot of like teenagers who takes drugs in 1980s, who like on like these two kids basically. He doesn't know that she likes him, and she doesn't know that he likes her, like kind of thing, like because they don't know how to communicate. The only thing what keeps them together is robbing people around in the streets, and getting really fucked up with the drugs or all sorts of things. So
Mhm.
it's lots of things happening. It's lots of really kind of good moments, and a lots of them having limelight kind of thing in the storyline. And it's kind of also breaks the momentum. It's like he's like telling the story, and she's like interrupts him. It's like, let me tell me my side of it.
Mm,
But he
mhm.
of course continues telling his story, how unrequited love he had for her, and how what wasted life, how this homeless guy was part of the storyline. At the beginning I thought he was just a scene for kind of dilute the story, or kind of like make the story busy for you to be distracted by information, but it was actual a key moment. So it's really good moments of writing in here. So I definitely
Mhm.
enjoyed it a lot. It's difficult
Oh,
to
cool.
explain if I don't want to spoil a story. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm kind of vague on that. But it's I was honestly one of the Ed Brubaker's books which I was happy to be in my library, because
Yeah,
since
cool.
that reckless stuff I wasn't very keen. But this is, I mean, it's very good mystery. Let's say this way.
Mhm.
But it wasn't a mystery until right kind of like to moment. But I
Yeah.
can't even say that, because it's the thing. You have to read from the beginning till the end to understand this premise of the book. And even
Mhm.
himself, right at the end, he's kind of tries to tell you, so what to say after the end of this book. And he kind of tries to explain his process, why they even attempted to do that. And apparently Sean Phillips asked him a romantic story to Ed Brubaker to be writing, and he never found it way, because it's all about criminal stuff, and he liked that.
Mhm.
He always starts with a murder and then goes around it to tell you what's happening after that. Or
Yeah.
this one, it was what happened, why the murder, and what murder happened, and then, the body, why they found the body, or where the body was. So kind of that
Mhm.
part of it. It wasn't really the murder. Anyway, I'm trying not to spoil the things, but it's a good. I honestly thought, sometimes when you make a purchase, especially after a while, when you had like a bad seeds in the reading,
Yeah.
uh this is good. This is like
Yeah,
rekindles
cool.
my like of it. It's the same size as a comic. Like it
Yeah,
looks
yeah. So the same
it's the
size as
same
even the other
shape,
hardcovers. Yeah.
everything. But it's honestly, the characters were intriguing now, like very intriguing to understand where. And the mystery part with the couple and the husband and all. Oh, it's just all of them, and the way he describes the characters, he kind of sets the scene already from the beginning. So you have a juvenile delinquent, teenage runaway, man with a badge, hardworking psychiatrist, neglected wife, private investigator, aka roller derby kid, homeless veteran, and neighborhood watch. And by
Mm.
that, you just basically already kind of like clicking where. And of course,
Yeah,
he
right.
has this, and he said nothing. Some of it was true, some of it was made up for him, but all this neighborhood explains all where the situation happened, who is
Oh,
where
cool.
and where. But this is all made up. This Pelican Road doesn't
Yeah, yeah,
exist.
yeah.
But
It's
it's
not a real
had
book.
some of, he says, some fiction, something true. But that's how the good writers manages to find a story to write,
Yeah,
when you
right.
incorporates both. Like You
Yeah,
have like
pull from real life.
yeah, exactly, because in the end of the day it becomes more believable. You have more attractions to the story, I guess, or you're
Mhm.
attracted to story more because of that writing. But Edward Baker, like he always somehow unravels the story to the point. And as I say, I was intrigued to know, but the way he was dealing, it was interesting to see that the thing of the mystery wasn't discovered, that you couldn't discover it right, but there was the mystery, like there was more mystery about the characters and why they were involved, and who's the bad guy was interesting as well. So I wasn't even thinking of that because I was so immersed in the storyline to understand the people who he had
Mhm.
as a character. So very good.
Yeah, cool.
Good present.
Almost like
So
a Citizen Kane kind of thing, potentially
yeah,
getting
and
different perspectives on one story from a bunch of different characters' angles.
yes, 25 US dollars. This like it's usually
Oh
the
yeah,
same, isn't
wow.
it? Or is
I
it
mean,
not?
that's probably on
Is it
par with
this?
what these other ones were.
Yeah, it shouldn't be this. It shouldn't be more, no.
Yeah,
But
I mean that seems expensive to me, but I don't. It's been so long since I bought one of theirs. I don't remember if that's kind of always been the price for those ones. Because 25 US, that's like $30+ Canadian, which seems. I don't know if I'd spend $30 on a Brubaker book at this point, just because I've been kind of soured from them. But a library,
yeah,
I'd take it out.
reckless is definitely yeah. But
Yeah.
but this, as I say, when I was trying to get hold of it, I didn't see it in the bookshelves. I went to
Mm,
that, like I got the book for sale, and I was looking
Warlock.
for
Yeah.
this to see if they had it on the shelves. Then they didn't.
Yeah.
I went online and I couldn't find it either. In that time, I don't know, maybe
Oh.
it was just me doing that. But then my comic book guy, I don't usually tend to buy hardcovers from him. He said don't buy it, but he had the same price tag as online ones. Like, of course I'm gonna
Oh.
support you.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
first
Exactly.
thing because he said, I'm never going to be competitive when it comes to hardcovers. He said, because I need to make all the money I can possibly can. So if you're willing to spend with me this, of course, I'm going to send it to you. So he always said that to me, but it was as I say, it was the same price as online price. I was, okay, why not then?
Shit. Yeah. Support your comic.
There's another website, which is usually cheaper, but they sold out, and they say if they sell out, that means kind of like, okay, so it's kind of like I say maybe it's something like if I want to, but like kind of like I always, as I say, my cup of tea is all intrigue criminal stuff, and he
Yeah.
had that, he had mystery, he had interesting characters, he had all that, like teenage angst kind of part of it, and you have that girl superhero who's reading comic books in the 80s as an Asian. Oof, that's a brave soul. And generally, as you know, the history of you
Yeah.
being
Shit.
bullied just because of reading
Yeah.
comic books in generally. So
Comic books are playing. I was just talking about this with my son. There's some guys that I bowl with, super nice guys, but like they would have been the guys in high school that would have picked on and probably beaten up the D&D guys. Now they're older and now they're playing D&D and they're loving it. It's like, fuck you guys. You don't get to have D&D. Fuck you. You fucking guys. Jesus, it drives me nuts a little bit, legitimately a little bit, because it really is. Because I mean, I was friends with the guys
definitely
that were playing
wouldn't.
D&D. I was sitting beside him in the cafeteria reading comic books. Like, we were not the most popular kids in school, and the D&D guys would get picked on and beaten up. And it's like, and now those same motherfuckers that were doing that are the ones that are playing D&D. It's like, fuck you. Who's gonna beat the shit out of you for playing it now? You
I
fucking
am.
prick. Yeah.
I am. Where's
You
my
don't get
shotgun?
to have this. That
Where's my
angry,
light? I'm
stupid
gonna
shit.
D&D or to like
Yeah.
You definitely there's a lots of, it's funny, there is kind of the ones who bullied goes back to where you think you were bullied for, and you're like, why?
Yeah.
You would enjoy that kind of stuff.
Well, it just shows the stupidity of teenagers, right? Like,
Oh,
because ultimately, if you're
definitely.
bullying somebody, it's purely a personal thing that they have with themselves. They want to be doing things or whatever it is, right? They just, this whole stupid high school nonsense that unfortunately people never fucking grow out of. Yeah.
Same old
Yeah,
story.
right. Exactly right. Yeah. Yeah. And I was the quiet guy who wore black and was reading Vertigo and weirdo comics and underground comics and, yeah. Yeah, it's
There was
just funny how that shit happens.
there was a moment for me. I kind of was always in the middle, so I was not nerd enough to be part of nerdy side, but wasn't cool enough to be in the cool side. I was right
Mhm.
in the middle, smack in the middle. So
Yeah.
I had this teenage phase where I started wearing like really oversized pants, which are coming back, which is bloody ridiculous. Just like, oh, you're basically wearing a sack or bag of,
Yeah.
like,
Right.
and you barely can see the trousers. It's trousers, but you barely can see. So basically,
Yeah.
it was, and I was wearing them daily, So I was never, because I was never bullied because they were too afraid of me, because I was like standing ground. But I wish I
Hmm.
could tell every single, or I say, if I can tell my son this one thing, no matter how many times they will try to attack you, just stand your ground. If you, of course, you have to be brave enough to do so, but if you can stand your
Yeah.
ground, it tells such a big tale afterwards that it in the long term will help. Because I remember
Yeah.
once one moment I had between one this, whatever, the extreme popular girl in the whole high school, and I basically clashed with her for no apparent reason, because we are stupid teenagers, and we were in fights. So I slapped her. I basically left a mark for a month, because I slapped so
Nice.
hard. Everybody, basically, I was kind of like, I never heard the slap so hard, and my hand never hurt so badly. But imagine receiving that end. So she was basically red for the month, and I was like, taken to everywhere, like wherever, when you
Mhm.
are a bad girl, because I am the one who lift the hand up, yeah. So I was the bad one. So I went to every single, like, the director's room. My dad went into, been told off like several hundred times. But since that moment, nobody tried anymore, because
Yeah.
I had
Right.
that moment. I stood
Yeah.
one ground, and that's it. Oh yeah, yeah. I was defending others as well. Don't forget.
Yeah.
That's the
Right.
only. So before, so I was bullied once, maybe, or what? Somebody tried to bully, but I stood the ground. But then I had to protect others. So they were like,
Yeah.
"Oh, so I can't bully her. So now she's protecting other ones. Come on,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not fair." And I used to be like
We
coming,
knew.
like running. I always in the middle, especially if the girl fights between the girls,
Yeah.
whichever. Dude, I used to be there in the middle, right there. Like,
Yeah.
go on, punch me then. And they
Yeah. Right.
spread around, like almost spreading around. It's kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
Sorry, I went on
We
a
knew this
tangent.
girl in high school. Jacqueline was her name, and
Uh,
we there was the infamous story about Jacqueline was there was these two dudes who were just fucking pricks and tried to like fucking rough her up or whatever. She
yeah.
beat the shit out of both of them on the front grounds of the school. Like me and
Yeah.
my buddies were so fucking in love with Jacqueline, and then that story just kind of like nailed it. It's like, oh my god, you're like the most amazing woman we've ever met in our lives. And of course, none of us stood a chance, but she was same kind of thing. Like she had a reputation in school that you don't fuck with Jacqueline. You just don't fuck with her. She will
Mhm.
fucking take you out. Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter how big you are. Like she stood up to people routinely. She was amazing.
Oh, oh yeah, I was, yeah.
Yeah.
I probably would have, probably,
Yeah,
honestly.
right.
I wasn't that, but
Switchblade foam.
yeah. Well, maybe not that one, but yeah. I was like the rave, like absolutely obsessed person in that
Right.
moment. So I was like black, black, black.
Jinko jeans.
Yeah, but not emo, but black and some kind of really crazy color. Like I used to go
Yeah,
for
right.
lime green, those like fluorescent lime greens. So very black with something completely out of like norm and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was me always fighting for everybody else. I kind of like I always got in trouble because I was doing that. I was overly protective of everybody. Like my classmates especially. There was a
Yeah.
time when I had to basically go after a guy, and I was like, kind of like, why would I told him like, what's wrong with you? And like, what did she do to you that she deserves your like wrath? And I said to him like
Hmm.
plainly simple, and he didn't know what to say because it was just hormones, I bet.
Yeah.
But basically, what I had to do, so I bit him. I was like a
Jesus.
ruffian. So like I was doing the vampire bite without having vampire teeth, basically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So he was attacking. I was on top of him. Somehow I saw a neck and I went for it.
Jesus.
like a crazed dog, I think I was
Yeah,
called
yeah, right.
afterwards. Because that basically that's what happened. I don't know. I just tried to protect somebody, like
Yeah.
I just don't understand sometimes when when
Lillian is like that in school these days. Like she's
yeah,
kind of known even
yeah,
amongst the boys. When
yeah.
Lillian comes over and she's got like her death stare and she just stares
Yeah,
down one of these boys and they
yeah,
back off and they don't look her in the eye and she just intimidates them. So if any of her close girlfriends are getting in trouble, like they went to a dance on Friday and there was
yeah,
a bit of drama that mostly Lillian stayed out of because she's
yeah.
staying out of that kind of shit these days, which is good.
Mhm. Yeah.
But one of her friends had a thing and we was with this boy and this boy was being tough. And she's like, so I just walked over and he was by the water fountain and I just gave him my death stare and I just stared him down and kind of like, she's like, and I just kind of looked him up and down and just kind of like didn't look impressed. Apparently the boy had to like turn away. He was so uncomfortable. He completely just wouldn't make eye contact with her. I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, that's my girl. Keep doing that. It's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Mm.
So speaking of the Phillips,
Yeah. Oh, you do
Jacob
have.
Phillips.
Oh yeah, there you go.
I didn't read them yet, so I found also issue number 4. They had one
lovely.
copy left at my comic shop. They had one copy left that they had to go to the other building to get for me. Very nice of them.
Is it
But,
the last one? Number 6?
I think this is the last one, although I see this here and it's like, well,
Oh,
that
but
means another cover because they've been doing this connecting covers.
mhm.
This issue also had a Tradmore variant cover that, as much as I love Tradmore, it wasn't the greatest looking cover, and I really wanted to get this because it connects. So I
Yeah.
haven't read it yet, but I've now completely caught up with my Enfield Gang Massacre, which I'm very excited about. But the one book that I did start reading, 2
Yeah.
issues in, where is it? Right here. And this is the last thing that I read. I'm starting to read this book called Outlander. From Malibu, Malibu Graphics.
Oh.
What year? 1987 is when it's from. I'm 2 issues in. It's pretty enjoyable so far. The art is really great, and as I'm reading it, I'm like, this really reads like a TV show, like a TV episode. And it turns out that the writer of it and the artist, they do work in television, so they were doing this not always necessarily as like. Not necessarily as like a pitch for a show or anything, but I think their minds were just in that TV world. So they kind of wrote this. One of the interesting things is there's an organization here called ICE, which what does it stand for in this world? Because it's a thing in the States. Institute for the Control of Societal Endangerment, aka ICE, aka the Institute. So it's kind of about that stuff. Oh, Fox Movies has a Western marathon on for the next 2 weeks. Oh, sweet. They have this this kind of main character here. I'm gonna not remember names, but he's kind of part of the institute. But it seems like there's people in this institute that don't go out into the field. They literally stay in this office and they're doing everything through computers and kind of organizing these kind of like SWAT teams.
Yeah.
And it's a super. I was really intrigued because the portrayal of this character is pretty fucking good. The art is pretty amazing. But honestly, he's a pretty interesting character. He goes for one point for this massage. He goes for these massages, these executives or whatever. And it's this very robotic lady. Like there's no sexual relationship whatsoever. It's literally just a massage. But he's having a moment. And what does he say to her? He has this kind of physical altercation with him, with her, sorry, where he's just looking to release.
Whoa.
He's just looking for something, right? And it ends with something that I haven't really seen kind of done explicitly. He's kind of left on the ground, kind of crying and stuff, and he's like, "I'm drowning alone." So you really give this impression of like, this is a guy who is going through some shit. So I thought that was really kind of impressive, again, with this idea of having these stereotypical characters that are, instead of just expressing things through like alcoholism, drug addiction, he's literally admitting to himself, like, I'm drowning, like I need help. He's acknowledging that his life is not the way that it wants to be. So that kind of had me hooked with this book. unfortunately for the rest of it, and then into issue 2, the writing is so goddamn dense that it
Oh.
really became a struggle, especially in the second issue, to kind of read it. I did kind of power through it. I didn't miss too many panels, but I did skip over a couple of things because it was just so way too much narration, way too much inner monologue. So that kind of ruined it for me a little bit. I'm still going to continue with it. I think it's only like a 6-issue miniseries. So I will finish it.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, there's some really nice stuff going on.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, using that page like
Yeah.
that, I think is pretty nice. So
is it like a
it's pretty cool, Frank Miller-ish looking, you know?
Yeah, is it like a spice flick? Yeah, is it like a spy flick? Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's espionage type of a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, and then this is where we get introduced to the guy that's on the cover here. This kind of, and then we start to find out he's now like this rogue agent, and they used to be good friends, and you know, all of this kind of thing. So in the second issue, we start getting a little bit of their history together and the shit that they've gone through together. So like there's a lot here to be intrigued by for sure. It's just that the writing is so goddamn much. He's used to writing scripts for TV is what my takeaway is. That's kind of where his comfort level is when it comes to writing. So he's writing this like it's a script for a television show, and you need maybe half of these words, you know, because there was more often than not, there were so many moments where it's like this could have nothing written on the page at all, and it would still move, like I'd still be able to understand what's going on, right? But instead he's filling up all that dead space. But either way, intriguing enough to keep going with. So it's here in the reading pile as I kind of continue to go through it.
Okay, cool. So you have them all?
I do have them all. It took me a long time to find all the copies, but eventually I found them all from like 50-cent bins. It just took forever to kind of get all of them. And it's like, it's one of those things as you're looking for these obscure titles. It's like, what the hell am I so worried about finishing this thing for? Like, this is ridiculous. But then you sit down and read it and it's like, okay, yeah, this is why I'm doing it, you know.
And you picked up random one issue and that's why you decided to get them all?
Like yeah, random issue. It looked good. I flipped through it. The art looked pretty great. I didn't read it at the time because it was a later issue. And then it was one of those things that it would just pop up. I'd find another issue here. And it's like, oh, and for some reason that title just would always stand out to me because it's very kind of static. It's not maybe it's not the worst lettering ever, but it's not maybe the best either. But it's really kind of jumps out at you when you're flipping through bins like this. You end up seeing, you peel one back and there's Outlander sitting there. It kind of stands out. So
do you remember the series called Highlander? For a second I was like, Highlander.
Because
of a trench coat on the cover. You
know? That's right.
It's just missing the sword. Where's the sword?
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, they've still got a few issues to go. Who knows?
And my last gift for me, of course, and this is gonna be, I don't know how to. This.
Hey, sweet.
So finally, basically, what I got it. I reserved this on library, but I was like, I can't wait, and I was thinking, okay, let's just do it. Just get, like for myself and stuff, and I wanted to see what the fuss is all about, kind of thing. So, first question.
Did you read it already?
Yeah. First question is who's publishing in your part of the world your copy?
Fantagraphics.
Because this one says for in across the pond here is Jonathan Cape publishing.
Okay.
So because I was wondering, because it's specifically saying it's in England published, which is, I was like, what?
That's weird.
So, yeah, no, I was thinking it's gonna be saying Fantagraphics because that's what you was showing to us. But it says Jonathan. It even has the publisher's house badge.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I wonder why, because you get Fantagraphics stuff over there, right?
Exactly. That's why I was asking. That's why I was like, that's random. Yeah. Anyway. So okay, so this is a bit of a, I don't know why, but my mind is kind of like all over the place after reading this.
Yeah.
First, I absolutely love the artwork. Second, I mean, it's aesthetically way too clean in some ways. I really like this one,
Yeah.
this area. But the way he started it with this, I was like, what's happening? I kind of got confused from the get go, maybe at the beginning, because I wasn't really aware. But then I realized, of course, after reading for a bit, and it's quite a read, by the way. It's not like you can just sit down. Like it took me several days to finish it because
Yeah.
there was quite a dense information happening in here. But then I realized that we're following one character, Monica, basically, and her basically coming into life.
Yeah.
This story, I was like, is because he has some random stories in between, yes. Because surely that, like the Krug and the instant, I think was like was it connected? Because that's what I'm confused about.
Yeah.
It is
So I
connected.
mean, here's what I'll say about it. I would take you back to that kind
Yeah.
of title page there, the credits page rather, and
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
it's like a mix of like historical things, but it's also
Yeah.
a mix of like story things as well. And I think
Religion.
that's kind of a big theme throughout this is this blending of like when art kind of like mimics stories
Mhm,
kind of mimic real life or
mhm.
have an importance in your real life, but it's also this blending of which is auto because there's part of me that thinks that this is autobiographical of his wife's life. There's also I feel
Oh
like there's some
wow.
autobiographical of his life in here, but then
Yeah.
there's also this fictional element, and I
Yeah.
think that's kind of purposeful to kind of really blur the lines of what
Hmm.
kind of story am I telling? And I mean, Klaus classically works with, like there's a whatever the one's called Wilson, I think, where it's comic
Yeah.
strips throughout it. So he's really versed in the language of kind of like these comics that have influenced him. And that's where I feel like a lot of this goes with all these horror stories because they sort of relate to the real world. What
Yeah.
is the real world? All of
Yeah.
these things. Like it's a super intriguing and a damn good read, man. I loved it.
Because the thing is, you like you say, how do you make up story like that? To be honest,
Yeah.
there are some
Yeah.
levels of it where you. It seems like he listened to somebody's experiences because the way he's portraying the emotions, the vulnerabilities of Monica, and especially how her life has kind of paid, how this the beginning of her life has paid basically the way to the rest of it. You know, like whatever she has been through and what she was exploring and how she came to be, how she was kind of like confused most of the time because of where she and everything happened, how you and like this story, for example. Now explain
So
glow in,
good. The tree shit.
yeah, the glow infernal. So this dude is this her dad experience? Is that what he's trying to?
Honestly, it's been so long since I've read it. Those kind of details, I honestly
Yeah,
don't remember.
because he comes back to this town, he goes through the cemetery, the route he goes, everything seems to be changing. He's going in this town where he grew up, everything he doesn't recognize it that he used to be, didn't realize that he left it for so long. But he comes to this house which is looks like the same, but then he realizes the house is not really looked after properly. Then he rings the door, he can't go in there, dad is not there because his mom's dead, yeah.
Yeah.
But he's
Yeah.
continuously going on a path to look for his dad,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like okay. And then he discovers there's this cult, and
Yeah.
whatever, it's like supernatural in the same time because there's these blue people, and these blue people who have a history from before times, but then they kind of came in existence. He meets his dad, the dad's kind of not having any feelings towards him whatsoever. He just kind of and
Yeah.
looks like Elton John's better self,
Yeah.
like was himself, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So there, and then like, and then you have this pile, this is like a pile of skin. So it means like
Yep.
what, they take them, like skin them down, and there's one thing says kill me, kill me.
Bonkers, dude.
Yeah, and it's just kind of weird in the middle of a story, and you're like, what the hell is going, and does he trying to throw us off, which is probably what it does, and then it ends up being a tree because
Yeah,
of that
which is
situation.
it's
And
yeah.
you're like, ah. But then you go to the Monica, and then of course you have Monica is growing up kind of thing with her things and what's happening to her. And I was like thinking, Okay, so we're following
And there's
Monica's life, but in those extra stories, it's kind of gives you away from, like, confuses you a little bit. I'm not saying it's a like something you shouldn't have in the book, but I really like the format. For example, I think it's one of the best things. Like the Ghost World is one what Daniel Klaus has got stamped for me, because that's where it's the first thing I kind of read of his first, fully like committed to it, and I really
yeah,
liked it. But this is, honestly, I cannot stop looking at it as a stylistically
it's
designed book.
gorgeous.
Really good, absolutely fantastic. Coloring
And there's
is
also like I'm
the
just flipping through it again now. There's different colors on the pages. There's
yeah,
3 different colors for the pages themselves. So
yeah,
the
and then
ones that are, really dark to the ones that are kind of cream to the ones that
yeah,
are white. And
yeah,
it's
yeah,
interesting. And again, like that story that you pointed out, that Glow Infernal, I think is the perfect story to pick out from this whole thing,
yeah,
because it just shows about like how stories mimic real life stories and how you
yeah,
maybe tell some truths within kind of
yeah,
like a fictional science fiction / horror type story. And that being in this book, which is exactly about that, you know what I mean? I think yeah,
yeah.
man. Yeah. I'm
And then
so
you read
glad you got
the
this because I haven't thought about it for a while.
and then you read the instant, and this is the only the extra material. I say if it doesn't if they don't connect, and this one it has the most unresolved moments in the storyline where you have this guy finding a boy because mother asked him to find it, so he finds it. He gets into this sort of place where the kid doesn't want
Oh,
to get away,
yes.
but then they end up running away from it. But why are they running from what away from it? Because it doesn't get explained to you, because the mother is in the hospital. Why she end up in the hospital? There's an accident. They go towards the hospital. There's an accident, but nobody's, even the friends of the investigator don't tell him the full story. And you're like, what's going on here? And then you end up
Mhm.
saying, oh, we have 2 of us now. And it doesn't say, did he see the mother? Did he have any information left? The only thing what they say, oh, we escaped and we're safe now. And they drive away. And there's this last panel of them driving away in the yellow car.
The
And you're like,
color yellow in that, like it
yeah.
almost sears your eyes. It is
Yeah.
so bright, that yellow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But anyway, I honestly absolutely love the way it looks. I love
Yeah,
his characters. I like the way Monica has been aged as well. I like the
yeah.
way she is really like, you go through life and you can actually see her dread and her experiences. And she doesn't go through it really easily as well. She gets into accidents. You don't know exactly what happens to her when he kind of explains to her what accident happened. In a way,
Mhm.
she doesn't tell the full story of it as well. So it's, as I say, maybe I'm trying to overanalyze it in some ways, because it's Daniel Klaus. I shouldn't just take to what you experience it, because I am like, I enjoyed it. I have a lot of questions in my head. I was longing to see if she's gonna finally find her mother, which she did. And that
Yeah.
moment didn't really pay off that much. Maybe I was like, oh, like
No,
I wanted.
because it shouldn't pay
Yeah,
off.
no, because it was horrible. But that moment when she goes into, finally she realizes, oh, maybe I should just go to the cult, and because she had that pamphlet in her head, and then
Yeah.
she realizes maybe the mother went, and then she goes in that comfortable, and it's very uncomfortable, and he makes it really clearly that this place where she's basically ventured in, it's not really a good place to be at, because of course it's a
Mhm.
cult, so surely they have their one way of path, and she's just like, she just have a questions, but the only way she can actually get them from them is to be part of it. And then she finds all these people with weird haircuts and the weird questions, and she's placed in this room, and she's been questioned like 100 times, and she's like just trying to do whatever because she has a goal, and then ends up having to meet this dude who kind of looks like a female in this robe of purple, and he's
Mhm.
absolutely obsessed, and she's asking, oh, are you my daddy, kind of thing. And at that uncomfortable conversation, he's laughs at her, and he like, I don't really give a rat's ass about you if you are my child. And then of course, the moments where she's kind of escapes it, and then she has success, and then she meets as I say, she finally meets her mother, and that was actually quite horrible, to be honest, for her. And this moment was absolutely look great in the
Yeah,
panel.
so good.
So yeah, and her aging is fantastic, by the way, by Monica. And he really nails it. But then, okay, the end. Okay,
Fucking
yeah,
end. Yeah.
What is the
that
end? What is
final
that?
that final panel, I just
Yeah,
read it again. It is
yeah.
goddamn mind blowing. And in an instant, I know I've made a terrible mistake. A malignant throng, demons of chaos and torment, spew from the underworld, vengeful, spreading earthly despair, unstoppable into the vacuum. The fucking end. It's outstanding, dude. That is unbelievable.
And yours is much shinier than mine, eh?
Yeah, I
Because
think ours is a glossy. Yeah, it's
it's
again
matte.
Fantagraphics doing it right.
Yeah, mine
It's
is
so strange to me. There's got to be a story there. I can't imagine what that story is, like why it's not Fantagraphics for you. I just don't understand it.
We have Fantagraphics coming out. Like you so many things you saw me showing to you from Fantagraphics in this part
Yeah,
of the world. That's why I was so
so
surprised.
weird.
Because when I finished, like you check every single page, and of course I went through every bit of the things, and then there's the Penguin Random House is published, but then this Jonathan Cape is the other part of it. So, and Jonathan Cape
Weird.
has that
So do
badge.
you not have this as the end papers for the back
Oh,
cover?
no, I do.
Oh, you do. Oh, okay, okay.
Not
I
the
thought it was
end,
just
but this is what I have. But then I have
understood.
the
Oh, okay,
blue page end like that.
okay.
So
Yeah, that's bizarre, man. That's bizarre.
that's why I was
But
like
anyway, like
wondering.
that ending, I think again, like following that same train of thought of like looking to stories to give you some answers, looking
Yeah,
to like once I find my mother or know who my father is, I'm gonna have all the answers.
yeah, of
All of
course.
those things that's like, no, you fucking won't. There'll just be more questions. And then to
Yeah,
have at the end of a book where it's about discovering truth, to
yeah,
have this last panel of like, what do you
yeah,
mean you've released demons from the what the fuck have I just read here? It's
yeah, exactly.
amazing. And then also him being who he is, kind of being a part of that kind of alternative comic scene in the 90s, but
Yeah,
also just being a comics fan in general,
yeah,
and how he injects a bunch of that into this story. All of that blurring the line stuff, I think, is done pretty masterfully in here. And again, this is obviously just my interpretation. He might have a completely different idea for what this book means, but that's kind of what I took from it. Um,
yeah.
I really love it. It's so awesome to kind of relive this again that you've read it. So
Yeah. So I was thinking that I wanted to, that's the thing I wanted to like when I got it a couple of weeks ago, I was like, oh yeah, I want to talk, but then I was starting to read and I was like, oh, maybe I just need to take my time because honestly, as I
yeah,
say, I there's so much information going on, and of course, knowing him, how his writing style is, you never know what you're gonna get at the end of it. But that mother thing, I was so
yeah,
focusing throughout the reading. I was like, when she's gonna see, oh, she's dead. Why
yeah.
she's dead? And honestly, that then she went into that grandpa's place in the country before her
Uh-huh.
accident, and then she
Tape
started talking to
recorder
that
and stuff. Yeah,
radio. She was talking to the radio,
yeah.
and she thought it's the grandpa talking to her, and she basically went a little bit cuckoo in the moment, or at least she thought she was.
Hmm.
Such just a real moment where the person can lock himself in because he believes on something they are listening to. And no matter whoever
Hmm.
comes into her life afterwards, and then that boyfriend comes in and she completely wants to shut him down. And she did eventually.
Yeah.
But you could just like she's like struggling. I don't want anybody around me. I was just like enjoying dipping in the really cold waters, go inside and talk to radio. And like by that just by saying that sentence sounds like I'm bloody, like going nuts in my head.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
it actually right at the end of that last page you were talking about, that's how it ended. Because
She
that's what
finds
she's
it
looking.
again. Yeah.
Yeah, because that was falling because suddenly it shut down and then is it her head? Do you think she
Yeah.
went nuts? This is because the story of her life in generally.
I
That's
mean,
what
yeah, and that's the thing. It makes you question the entire
it's bad
book.
match.
That
Yeah.
entire read is like now
Yeah.
in question of like, what the fuck? What did
Yeah.
I just read? And I think that's why people say that it's one of those that deserves a reread, because then you have that kind of
Yes.
revelation, and then you kind of look the second read through, you look at it with different eyes now, right?
Yeah, because
So
you're kind of like inspecting, you like
yeah,
the details, the panels, the story, exactly the words she's gonna use or he's
yeah,
using, but then maybe you missed out on something because you definitely do because there's a lot of information, and the way she describes the story, and I really like that panel when she's with Buggy, like I'm not gonna like abortion, I'm gonna have a child just because fuck you all the world kind of thing because she has
yeah,
a really difficult life with her parents. That panel when she walks in with the baby stroller, and she's like kind of like saying it's kind of funny, that's that what
Yeah.
kind of image I think my mom used to say she used to have of the people in that era when she was like having a babies, like with that stroller kind of old school stuff. And my mom saying she had this friend who had the baby and she was smoking like a pipe. And she's like, oh, I couldn't believe it. She actually have a child, and what's going to happen to that child? And I don't remember
Mhm.
what my mom told me about the child's, like what happened in the future. I don't think she knows it anymore, but like it's kind of
Yeah,
that
right.
moment just gave me the glimpse of it. It's kind of
Yeah.
interesting, but yeah, it's crazy. Honestly, it definitely, you shouldn't be surprised because it's him, like Dining Clouds. I
Yeah.
mean, so it's obscure read, but definitely really good. I mean,
Very imaginative.
stylistically, I don't know if he's improving or something, but I really like the color schemes he's using. I
Mhm.
really like the way the character, as I say, grow with the page by page returning, and she's really
Yeah.
like looking through her life window kind of thing, and it's like she has to go through things, and then she just
Yeah.
they're not even talking about her like being happy and having kids. You should notice that as well. Like there's
Yeah,
not
right.
even
Yeah,
mention
exactly.
because she's so involved in her own little bag of dirt that
In
she
her
can't see
personal
anything.
journey, right? Like in her,
Yeah, exactly. Because she was like second
gotta
guessing.
kill that whale. Like, gotta kill that whale.
But that's the thing, because she was left behind, and she kind of clearly
Yeah.
remembers exactly her life with her mother. And suddenly, but the way she was taken to her grandparents is also quite disturbing for a child. And generally, she's like her mom comes sweating
Yeah.
completely, takes her shush her, puts her in the car, and whooshes away, gives her to grandparents, and bye bye, see you later, and that's it.
Mhm.
That's your own information for the rest of your life. You know, who wouldn't question that
Yeah,
afterwards?
absolutely. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yes, and that's why I was saying, where do you get this information? But how clever can you be to write that kind of story? Because it feels realistic, like we ought to keep on talking about it. It feels too
Yeah.
realistic not to have the some sort of like
And that's the thing,
inspiration.
like I like none of the stuff I said at the beginning do I have, like I didn't see an interview or anything. This is just my feeling that there
Yeah.
seems like there's some part of this that's
Hmm.
somehow biographical, because it
Hmm.
feels like there's too many kind of unique moments that's like,
Yeah.
dude, you're not writing that shit. Like that is coming. It just has that
Yeah.
feeling that it's coming from someone's actual story. And then it's elaborated on to the degree where it's all kind of clouded in mystery or whatever. But there's those moments that's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
man, this is about someone, you know?
It has to be.
And
Yeah.
later on, it seems like he makes an appearance where Klaus is in there, you know what I mean? So that's where I was thinking about, like, I wonder if this is something with them and their lives, you know? So, but yeah.
Mm.
And also what can happen when you're that level of successful, where you can take whatever it is, a couple of years to work on a story and work on a book, where he doesn't really have, I'm assuming he doesn't have financial issues like a lot of people would. He's at a certain level of success where he can dedicate time to really digging into an idea, which is what makes it so pleasurable to have something from him, because he didn't just whip this off in a month and send it out the door. He's been thinking about it and working it for a long fucking time, which is
Mm.
amazing.
That's why I'm saying the stories, the way it's written about, especially human psyche and the way they go through some details, especially experiences as a minor, it's interesting because that's not really something you make up. Like those insecurities, moments of doubt, where you're gonna
Mm,
make your step towards something. How unreliable your conversations between two people is because you are completely insecure, and generally because you're not
mhm,
really sure who's telling the truth or who's telling the lie, and that
mhm.
kind of thing. You just like, it doesn't come out. I mean, maybe he's read so many stories that he's so clever and he can paste that
Yep.
down. Hopefully, maybe. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I'm not saying I'm doubting him, but I'm just saying it feels really much so like he has some insight on somebody's life, and he just kind of
Mhm.
have his own way of telling the story. So
Yeah.
it's really, yeah. So
Yeah, super
uh,
cool.
yeah, it's intriguing. It's not, as I say, I've not I don't think I've read all of his work, but so far
No,
one
there's
of
a few
the
things I haven't read either. Yeah.
yeah, one of the definitely intriguing, definitely worth, like you say, reread in a while. I'll take definitely a time, maybe a year, and just go back
Yeah,
if I
yeah, yeah.
want to. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like
Yeah.
digest, and then you go back kind of with your fresh eyes because you do then forget stuff.
Oh
But
yeah,
monsters,
totally.
the monsters we read a while ago, uh, and I still have it in my head sometimes. Like especially if I read some sort of like obscure storyline, kind of I always go back because I had kind of like I really enjoyed it. I think it was more book of the year for me in that time when it came out. But it's
Yeah,
funny, it's probably one of them like instilled in my head. I never thought about Barry the Windsor, yeah, Windsor Smith.
yeah,
Yes,
that's right. Yep.
I'm doubting myself. I don't know why.
Yeah, yeah,
Maybe because we're doing live.
yeah.
But yeah, it's one book is always like comes back to me. So it's
Because it was so fucking good. That's the
and
thing. It
disturbed.
was
I guess
so
it was
goddamn
and disturbing because the
yeah. Oh,
moments of
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, not
Yeah.
your
And
happy
you know,
go
one
lucky.
of those like it had a couple of moments that weren't as good for sure, but
Uh-huh.
overall it was just such
Yeah.
a stunning piece of work and there was so many details and again like when you have in his case however 20 years or however long he was working on the
Hmm.
goddamn thing, like there's just some of those details that you really get to drill into that just become exceptional. The one that always stands out for me is the wife finally asking for help and saying it in like this really small type and how fucking harrowing that was and
Hmm.
how that kind of once a linchpin, like that shit was powerful in a way that is tough to do, especially on a you know, it's a fucking again, it's a comic book. It's this
Yeah.
juvenile kind of thing. Like, how amazing is it to be able to relay some of those ideas and emotions through drawings in a book with some text? You know, it's kind of
Yeah.
mind-boggling that that level of human to human kind of communication can happen in something
Hmm.
like that that people just kind of scoff at and whatever, comics, it's stupid, it's kids, it's blah blah, grow up, you know. No,
Yeah. Yeah.
motherfucker, read monsters and tell me to grow up, like Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, it's not something you. If you want to lift your mood, don't definitely go for monsters book.
No. Yeah, it's
Not something is gonna lift
goddamn
you
good
up.
though.
It's gonna
Yeah.
crash down a little bit more, or make
Yeah,
you
for
think
sure.
about your existence in generally
Yeah,
or
yeah, right.
humanity.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, do you have anything else? Because I'm done. I don't
No, I
have.
have nothing else that
I
I
am.
read. Yeah.
I'm surprised
Uh,
I read this much. To be honest, I had.
I'm gonna be trying it again. Jaden's got a
Oh.
whole bunch of Berserk. He's got a ton of it now, including the hardcover books. And
Uh-huh.
I've never read the whole thing, and I haven't actually read a ton of it. So I have this one out. It's book number 1. I'm really gonna actually give it an attempt to like read it. That'll be like I think one of my projects for this year, like the biggest project of the year. I really want to get into reading
So,
Berserk because he's got like books 7, 8, 9, 10, or something of the big volumes because he's got a whole bunch of these sizes and then the bigger ones. And then
mhm.
I'm hoping this week that I can read Barefoot Jen
Hmm.
book number 1. So I'm looking forward to digging into that as well. But yeah, this will be the project for the year to try to get into it.
How come you're not going for the big hardcover? Because the art is so much bigger and wider and
Because
all
I don't
that.
want it. Because I don't want to buy him, and these are the ones that he has. Eventually, I'll get there. He's got about I think the first 13 in this size, and then
Uh-huh.
the rest of them he's got in that big that big
Oh, so
black
you
hard.
didn't start from number one, volume one, no?
No, he didn't. Yeah, because I had bought this way back when we lived in Ontario. I had
Uh-huh.
bought this one and read it back then, and then bought a bunch of the books here and there when I found them for cheap. And then
Mhm.
when Jaden was really getting into reading manga, we just kind of hit it harder and started getting them the collections. I gave him all the books that I had, and
Mhm.
he's read the whole thing so far. Like he's not totally caught up, but and he loves it. He's really digging the story. So
I watched anime and I loved it. I don't
yeah,
really see I because first I won't be able to find them all. Second, I don't want to commit to that much clutter.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So what like how much is like 60, 70, or 80 of those small one editions? I
I
mean it's
have
kind of
no idea
ridiculous.
how many of the small books there are, but I think the big oversized one, I think they're up to like book 13 or 14 or 15 even,
I
you know
think
what I
it's
mean? So,
more. I
and
think it's
those
even
suckers
more.
are huge. Like those are big volumes too, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I would love to have that, but I don't want to commit to something
Yeah.
this massive. And it's a pity my comic book my library doesn't have it properly done. That's why I went when everybody was kicking off and talking about it. I mean, I've seen Berserk every time. I've heard Berserk talk about it a lot of times. And I was like,
Mhm.
okay, what's the fuss all about? So of course I find anime, and I went for it, and it's like, oh, okay, I know why
Anime
the
is
people
so
are
good.
fussy. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I watched that. There's a couple of sections because then there's like a different release times apparently, and then
Mhm.
all that stuff. And I think that we were talking about it as well because when I was watching it, I think we mentioned it in here on one of those chats we were doing. But
Yeah.
definitely fantastic tale, and I would love to read it. But as I say, too much of commitment. I don't have anybody who I can borrow from. Let's say this way, because I would
Yeah,
definitely,
right.
if somebody would have it, I would definitely read it. Yeah.
And
Oh,
yeah,
I
like
bet.
Miss was saying, the anime left out a lot. Yeah, like the anime is
I
such a
bet.
sliver of the whole book. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I know, but it was like, oof, they
It was
give you a
so good.
taste. Yeah, but
Yeah.
still very nice. And I like the scenes anyway they were setting and the way, the and the original voices and subtitles all the time.
Mhm.
I mean, I know it's a bit of a slog to read, but I never liked voiceovers. No, not anime. I have to have those Japanese authentic, like
Mhm.
talks, actors voices, which is absolutely fantastic because they so much emotion, even though you don't understand, but then you read and you're trying to kind of like put that in that sentence of that emotional, but you can't get better than that.
I just remembered something that
Uh-huh.
we didn't talk about at the beginning. It just
Uh-huh.
occurred to me now. I saw it weeks ago. We went and finally saw speaking of manga and stuff, I think is what triggered it. We went and saw the last Miyazaki movie, The Boy and the Crane. We went to the theater and saw it.
That's
Have you seen it yet? No? Okay, then I won't say anything about it. Other than I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. Yeah,
I,
I
I
look
wanted
forward to you seeing it, and then we can talk about it.
I even skipped the trailers because I was like, nope, I don't want to spoil. Nope.
Yeah.
And it keeps on coming up, and I was like looking because I think there was this in the cinema. Was it in? It has to be have. Yeah. Anyway, I was looking out, and it was still there in cinema. So I guess I'm waiting. I don't know. Probably I'm gonna wait for a while because it seems to be. I don't know. If I even heard the release date of coming into actual physical format.
Yeah, no idea. Well, and I don't know where it would stream. Like, does Disney still kind of own the Miyazaki stuff over here? Is it still kind of like an arm of
No,
Disney or no?
Netflix had the Miyazaki
Oh, okay.
license, but then I don't know how far do they.
Right.
I mean, because everybody thought that he stopped, but then he's releasing new movie, in
Hmm.
his prime
Yeah,
time.
apparently this is it though. This is the final thing. And based on the story, I could see that it being the final one for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, kind of like as I say, I try not to get myself spoiled because I know how much I like his stuff anyway. That's the
Mhm.
one I would definitely will look for physical media. Okay, but I don't
Yeah.
get it. I don't have it, and I always chicken out because it's quite expensive when you want to because they sell usually in sets now because there
Hmm.
are lots of things come out. But that's the one I would get in physical media. Miyazaki stuff.
Hmm.
But yeah, the one that you just reminded me, yeah, I've been skipping because I've been skipping information, anything I've seen because it's oh my god, it's the last thing we are ever gonna see from
And honestly,
Miyazaki.
that's the best way to go into it. I think we watched a trailer. Not that the
Uh-huh.
trailer, I personally don't feel like the trailer spoiled anything for me, but same thing. Like I avoided anybody talking about it. I
Yeah,
didn't read it. I didn't
yeah,
listen to it because I wanted to go in dry with like my own opinion of it because it's
yeah,
so difficult to not get influenced by people, right? So,
yeah.
yeah, so it's a good idea to don't even watch anything and
I
just go
wonder.
and or download it or stream it, or I'm sure it's going to be on a streaming service sooner than later because that
Mm.
was last year that it came out already, like earlier last or mid last
Yeah,
year, maybe I could say close to
it's
the
a
middle,
late,
maybe.
late, late release of
Yeah,
last year.
late K. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I guess that makes sense if we saw it in the theater. Yeah, true enough.
yeah, but it's difficult, Miss O, to do that.
It's
Not
hard
to
to
do.
avoid. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
which is why I think like we're pretty conscious of it. Like I read Monica months ago now, and I haven't spoken about it. This is the first time since I read it, which was months ago.
yeah. But
And
because
I'm
you,
pretty careful with that. Try to be anyway.
yeah, I was keep on asking you because I was trying to get hold of it. I was thinking, should I? Because when I saw it in library, it's like, okay, I'm gonna wait now. And then I was
Yeah,
like, oh no, I don't want to wait. And I was like, it's fine. And it's good that I didn't, to be honest. It's kind of nice to
yeah, yeah,
have because now what I want is to actually hear people's theories because there's so much in my head. And
yeah,
like when you talk to somebody, it's kind of like it's different because then you digest information with somebody else's input and you're like, okay, maybe
yeah.
makes more sense in my head now because honestly,
And also just to hear
sometimes so
what people
confusing.
get out of stuff, right? Like that's the enjoyable
Yeah.
part of all of this, right?
Some of them are
What is
fans, some of
someone
them
else
isn't.
getting out of it? Yeah,
Because not all of them are fans of Daniel Klaus' work anyway.
that's
So
right.
it will
Yeah,
be interesting to always see two sides of a coin, as they call it.
yeah,
Okay, people, it's quite late now. I need to
right
say
on.
bye
Yeah,
because I'm gonna need to go sleep.
see you next week probably.
Hopefully,
Yeah,
crossing fingers. Okay,
and try to
people,
read.
thank you, Miss and Paolo, for
Yeah, nice to see you, Miss So and Paolo. Yeah,
writing a lot. Thank you.
yeah, yeah.
And we'll see you later.
Leaders.
Bye.